All right, ladies and gentlemen. Clearly, the best time to start speaking is right before I need to clear my throat, right? Good start, good start. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. And when was the last time we did a React night? It hasn't been that long, I feel, especially since we've been doing a series of one-offs, but I figured with this one we'd do something a little different. So, as has been, well, as has been discussed at length already, especially last week. So a couple weeks ago, I put out a video looking at actually a week and a half ago at this point, I decided to look at a very silly individual who had a very interesting take on Palworld. And as a result of that, that video is doing surprisingly well, and thank you all very much for the fact that that video is doing well. So, no complaints here. So, that in mind, I figured we would spend a little bit of time with this React stream, figuring out a little bit more about what Palworld is about, since you've seen last week from a gameplay standpoint what all you can do with it, although that is definitely not all-encompassing given the circumstances. I figured we'd go from that to spending a bit of time getting to know the game from a storytelling standpoint, because that's something that I haven't really delved into a whole lot. So there's a bunch of logs that you can find, and there are optional stories you can attend to before going to each of the 8 towers. But for the most part, I haven't found a lot or read a lot of those journal entries. And while there is some story leading up to that, which I have engaged in across the board, and some instances here and there where an NPC will have a quest, which generally doesn't have too much in it, well, we'll see. Well, there's a lot about the world that I suspect that I don't have a full grasp on, and so a viewer recommended that I take a look at this video. So, that in mind, that is what we will be starting out with, and afterward, we will be spending a bit of time getting to know a bit more about the person whom we ended up making a response video to. So, we'll have that to look forward to, and if we wrap those up, well, we should have ample opportunity. Well, if we wrap those up in relatively short order, we should be able to see to a couple other things unrelated to that. So, we'll see how things time out with respect to that. In the meantime, is there anything in chat I need to see to? I have a lot of respect for Netty the Noodle because he spent over 100 in making of this video. You'll see why as this video goes on. Interesting. So, with that in mind, there's a part of me that's thinking, I'll be curious to see how far we end up going through this video, because typically, whenever there's a video with high production value, there's a sense where, is this something I should be reacting to, or is this something that I should be telling other people to go watch? So, I guess to give you a sense for what this channel is about, let's go ahead and open up a link to see what it has to say for itself. So, it is very much a lore channel. At some point, we may look at this. Gray in chat also recommended that as well. So, we've got a bunch effectively going through and looking through the story of a particular game and trying to explain it. And in cases like, well, I'd be curious to know what sort of story you get out of Legend ZA beyond what is explicitly stated. So I'd be curious to know how transformative it is given the circumstances. Although for something like Hollow Knight Silksong, where a lot of the story can end up being discovered rather than told, I can see that being very interesting and being worthwhile as far as content being created. So I'll be very curious to see how far we go into this. I'll be curious to see what lies within, though bear in mind, we may not go through the totality of this video. So, let's see. We will see how it goes. Before I forget, last stream I said Zoe Ring was the only human character with a chain of side quests where you get to learn more about the character, but I was wrong, as there is another character named Harold who has a quest chain, and possibly another quest chain. It looks like he's partway through typing, so short version, Zoe isn't the only one with a quest chain, though, to be fair, even if that is the case, the fact of the matter is that you don't see a lot of you don't see a lot of persistent NPCs. I think that would be a good way to put it. Because Zoe, you get to spend a bit of time getting to know after you've taken care of business at her tower, though outside of well, outside of turning in the quests, if you go far enough along the chain in each tower, you don't really get to know as much about the other tower bosses. So, to an extent, you could argue that Palworld had a lot of potential with respect to its NPCs and how they handle them that doesn't have a lot of time spent with it, but at the same time, that also wasn't their focus. You see the amount of time that they spent figuring out stuff with respect to, all of the pals, and you see, yeah, that's where their focus was. So, either way, let's not waste any more time. I think I've given enough time for people to trickle in. Let's take a look. Oh, hey, Lou, how you doing? A story is a fundamental way that we organisms okay, here we go. Store or make information about many topics, ranging to real or fake, or even cautionary ones that make who we are today. Alright, so, boilerplate stuff, got worded weirdly though, because it's you, but either way, no matter. I appreciate you being here nonetheless. So, let's go ahead and see what this guy has to say for himself.
Palworld story has gotten a huge update, and since I last covered this game a year ago, you're probably wondering what's changed in that time. Even among a myriad of controversies, including things like accusation of theft of models, plagiarism from other games, and even an actual patent infringement from...
Yeah, with the patent lawsuit being the only thing that actually matters, relatively speaking. Oh, looks like Ray finished his thought. There's a quest where you help 3 characters named Carla, Fia, and Gadel, but I'm not sure if they have any follow-up quests. No, fair enough. Either way. And then Lou's just posting silliness.
Pokemon, Palworld has continued to put out regular content updates, adding new mechanics, pals, and items, while also producing 2 major content updates in the past year, which added new islands and bosses for you to challenge. And with
So, before we get too far, caveat to this video predates the release version. So just to make sure we're all on the same page on that, this came out over a year ago. So this is not going to include, I believe, Skybreak or the World Tree. So, but there should be plenty of interesting stuff with respect to that. Although based on those timestamps, it looks like it'll mostly focus on particular characters, which, to be fair, that is where you would want to spend the most time on, since that the character's path would also allow you to touch upon multiple elements throughout, so we'll see what can be explored therein.
With all this new content, we've got a lot to cover. First, we'll establish some important base information like the different regions of the map and the bosses that reside in each, as well as the relevant notes of a mysterious character who's referred to as the Castaway. Then we'll jump into the journals of each boss found scattered around their respective regions. Lastly, we'll be casting some speculation as to the mysteries the game hasn't yet revealed, using the information presented to us both in the journal notes and even the PAL deck entries before wrapping up with the big picture. So stick around if you want to learn all about this simple yet fairly well delivered narrative. Grab your PAL spheres, hop on your jet dragon, and commit thousands of Geneva suggestions as we explore this.
Suggestions, okay. So, good line delivery, good timing, so I appreciate it on that count. And yeah, this definitely is early access for this to be the generic tower area for the PAL Alliance leader.
Story of Palworld.
Alright, on to the Palworld. Alright, so you gotta do your introductory stinger. Also, is audio volume good? It looks like he's a little loud relative to me.
Throughout the islands, you can find 23 notes from someone only known as the Castaway, as he talks about how he came to discover the island's existence and his journey throughout it. We'll only be covering a few of the notes because a majority of them have no relation to the story. They're just kind of like gameplay things. In day 0 of his journal, the Castaway mentions how the island is enveloped in a thick fog that hides it from view from the outside world, and as he attempted to steer away from the fog, he was sucked deeper into it and was then attacked by some unseen assailant who completely destroyed his boat before he was able to find his way to shore. In day 6 of his journal, he mentions that it's odd to him that there's an enormous tree, which he speculates is the World Tree from so many myths and legends. And
alright, audio was a bit louder. Okay, cool. Hopefully that fixes it. Yes, this video is pre-Sunreach and World Tree as a location you can go to. Cool.
that it's so large that even fog wouldn't be able to hide it, but yet it's unseen. He further muses that the only thing he can come up with is that there's some mechanism in place that prevents the tree from being seen from the outside, and that the mysterious powers of the pals
Okay, I don't like that image. We're moving on.
Something to do with it. And speaking of pals, that leads us to a character who is particularly obsessed with them. A tower boss that's just a tad bit disconnected from reality.
Just a tad, huh?
Such strange creatures. These noble beings have upheld our civilization since ancient times.
Who's doing the narration on this? Is that where the extra money was spent? Let's see. Do you have... Oh, excellent. There we go. You actually got voice actors involved, or at least people who can voice act to handle that. Very nice. Good for you. Okay, so I see. So you've got a decent amount of production value with respect to that, at least. And yeah, nice detail on the tablets as well. So yeah, production value's there. Honestly, maybe this will keep us from going too far into this so that I can say, hey, you've seen a taste of it, go check out the rest.
They not only boast impressive intellect, reflexes, and adaptability, but are adorable to look at as well. How could anyone not come to love them? Humans are savage animals with an insatiable appetite for the proliferation of their own kind. They subjugate other species and enslave them. They engage in pointless strife, consume flesh for no reason, and develop beyond their needs. When one takes into account their hideous appearance, how could anyone not detest them?
Okay, so very much taking a humans are the real virus, as it were. But, well, there's plenty that you could say with respect to that mindset, but seeing it portrayed in a character isn't out of the question, so fair enough.
Humans capture pals and use them. If a pal is confined to a so-called pal sphere, they become obedient to their master. What abhorrent tools they become. One can only say this is the greatest stain in the history of our civilization.
No pressure. I still remember the 2 videos you managed to stretch to almost 3 hours. You should see EFAP.
Pals and humans were originally meant to live alongside each other in mutual support. Not a relationship between master and servant, but one of equals. A harmonious coexistence, if you will. Eating a pal for food is akin to blasphemy against God. I will recount the day.
I'm kind of surprised that there isn't more commentary given with respect to her exact nature, though I guess so you've given about a minute to this. So, you know what? If there's a point you want to make after giving us more information, fair enough. Let's take a look.
I met Lila.
Who's reading right now? Because whoever it is, they should never read out loud ever. Jeez. Okay, I won't scroll down to the rest of it, so... I scrolled down there. In the video description, you can find out for certain, right? So, the option is there. I will say no more. Do not go harass anyone in the video, though. Either way. Anything I need to see to chat? Let's see. Alright, so... Lou being silly as always. No, I do not. No, I am not sponsored. Calm down, Lou.
Lean. I remember that the fog was so thick that day that I could scarcely see in front of my very eyes. I was simply walking along the berry fields, as I am fond of doing, when I heard the clamorous voices of those abhorrent poachers. When I looked to where I could hear the sound of their filthy screams, I saw them throwing spears at a pal resembling a vivid lily flower. She was so beautiful and elegant. At that moment, I knew what I must do.
Okay, so explaining how you ran into Liline, fair enough. So, I wonder who those filthy poachers were, because we know that there is some conflict between the Rain Syndicates and the Free Pal Alliance, but is this where it started, or were these just random poachers?
I pierced their dirty hearts through the back and destroyed their scattered spears. They shot at me a few times, but it was a trivial matter. I could not touch such a beautiful flower with my trembling, blood-stained hands. Instead, I returned immediately to my base. When I arrived, I found the queen of the lilies there, awaiting me. When she touched my arm, my wounds were healed, and the fatigue began to fade away. From that day forward, I decided to become companions with my queen. She is the only flower that blooms in this sad, dark world.
Kind of a shame that this isn't the release version you're showing off, where you do have the nice backdrop for Liline, but no matter.
Won't you join the Free Pal Alliance? The Free Pal Alliance is a long-standing organization that works to protect pals. We have lived together with pals since antiquity, and each of us has a deep love for the wondrous creatures. We have
I was being too harsh, they didn't cast the role right more so, I think. Okay, fair enough.
5 traditions.
To be fair, this is more of a voice than you would expect from an elder of sorts, rather than someone who, at least based on the description, seems more youthful than that, so I guess that's fair.
Additional commandments. 1. Thou must not eat pals. 2. Thou must not overwork pals. 3. Thou must not abuse pals. 4. Thou must not use pals for experiments. 5. Thou must risk thy life to protect pals. Wouldn't you like to join us and protect the pals you love? Your life in service of protecting pals is a small price to pay. The flesh and blood of humans exist only for the glory of pals.
Okay, now this is starting to get more cult-like. Okay, I mean, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, be courteous of your pals, recognize that they are living creatures. Okay, treat them as greater than your own. Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Founded by Lily Everhart, the mission of the Free Pal Alliance is much akin to that of PETA.
Although, if she says that they've been around since antiquity, perhaps she is that old? Although, based on the side quest, she comes across as probably more a lady in her 30s more so than someone really old, unless it's the group that she... I'd have to go digging into the specifics. Maybe you'll explain it.
In the real world, Lily wants pals to be equal to humans, and for them to not be used for labor or food.
On some distant shore of the island, there exists an islet where certain pals live. Not a single one of their kind, strange as it may seem, resides on the main island. Perhaps they can only flourish in a particular kind of environment, or their natural predators roam the main island. Then again, perhaps they are simply unable to cross the sea. I do not know the reason they exist there, but I am certain that they must be protected. Just imagining those poachers setting up a hideout there and ruining their way of life is enough to make my blood seethe.
Okay, so is that presumably giving more insight into the sanctuaries then? I think there's 3 of them set up, each of which have more dangers with respect to the drones that are patrolling. Makes you wonder what sort of association the Free Pal Alliance has with the PIDF, but might be worth looking into that. Although perhaps we'll be told. Let's see. I'm starting to think this is a video game. Are these the new rulers of Earth? Oh boy. We use humans for labor, so I don't know if this stops my latest pal farm. Oh boy. Where is Pal Farm anyway? I guess Pocket Pair has time for it now that Palworld's largely wrapped up, but either way. I would have expected someone more passionate sounding and younger considering her storyline, and especially considering the Free Pal Alliance in general, so yeah, that's fair.
With every visitor from the outside to their island, the pals' numbers dwindle. At this rate, they may even go extinct. I would like nothing more for us to protect them, but we have our hands full guarding this forest.
Oh, looks like I'm about getting my answer via text.
As loath as I am to ask them for help, I have petitioned the PIDF to assist with their protection. In return, we must pay them a hefty sum, but it is worth it if it means protecting the lives of precious pals. It seems my subordinates have found a way to generate revenue. I will set aside those funds for this endeavor. It seems odd that they would be able to gather such large sums, only through raids on the poachers' camps, though.
Okay, so keeping the PIDF as primarily mercenaries more so than anything else, but I'd be curious to know what her subordinates are up to then, because the main story with what they added with respect to the towers implies that... Implies that the Free Pal Alliance has been going insane lately relative to where, well, although most of that was laying at the feet of Lily becoming more emotionally unstable and cynical. So I'd be curious to see if there was some... I'm trying to remember, because the problem was I was in a co-op server with my D&D group when I ran through that. So I'd have to look back at my footage, and I can't easily pull it up here because it does have background of us talking with each other. So I'm trying to remember if it was something that was discovered within the Free Pal Alliance that made Lily become cynical, or if it was something without. I think it was something internal, but which this could be setting up, so interesting. Let's see. Oh, farm greater, less than human farm? Oh boy. To be fair, people have experimented with trying to set up human farms and all that fun stuff, and have had modest success. Would have been interested in more lore of the relationship between tower bosses? Well, we'll see if that ends up coming up. Although, perhaps we get a little bit more on this in a follow-up video, given that this did come out back in January of last year. More so than a release version, so no Sunreach or World Tree. So, it might be worth checking out the follow-up video to see if there's anything dug into there. But pals have less restrictions, meaning far more farm opportunities. Yeah.
The islets that Lily mentions are actually the PAL nature preserves, where you can find tons of rare PALs, which are also guarded by a group called the Palpagos Island Defense Force, or PIDF.
Oh wow, this is the
FPA
old version,
have
huh?
commissioned to protect PALs from poachers. She mentions that the PIDF, in exchange for their protection, require a hefty sum. She further mentions that it's odd to her that her subordinates are able to acquire all the funds just from raiding poacher camps. In the actual game world, you can figure out the sad truth. The FPA do exactly the same thing as the poachers, poaching PALs and selling them off to get the necessary funds to prevent the islet PALs from being poached. And
Okay, so that confirms what I recall. So Lily would have gone insane because she's seeing her own people act out in a way that she's supposed to clamor against. Fair enough.
Lily is none the wiser about the source of said funds. It's a sad message that even the most noble goals can be corrupted by the actions of those working towards them. Leaders
Interesting to see what the 1.0 release did with that then.
need to be able to see the big picture, and Lily clearly is blinded by her obsession with PALs, namely her own, to the degree that she isn't able to zoom out and realize the ironic, counterproductive, and corrupt organization she sits on top of. But speaking of corrupt organizations, FPA isn't the only one. Marcus Dryden is the leader of the PIDF, which he has ensured is an exceedingly volatile and unscrupulous group. In other words, they're bad.
What a joke. All the idiots do around here is snort up stims. It's a real dump. There's no
Is it bad that the first thing I thought when I heard that voice was Malos? This is what I get for playing too much Xenoblade, huh?
point in even trying to control it. PIDF doesn't belong in a place like this. The guys I arrested today couldn't even pay the fine. Guess it's to be expected if they spend all their money getting a fix. Bet they can't even imagine the money they pay ends up lining my pockets. I make a profit when they buy, and then I make more when I arrest them for possession. And I even get back my product to sell again when I confiscate what they have. It's a grand scheme. They're idiots, and I'm a genius. This is just their punishment for being fools. You catch my drift? This island is just my little sandbox to play on. For all I care, they can live their little sad lives without ever knowing I'm the one supplying their fix and the one controlling it. If I let them get carried away, they'll just go off demanding rights that ain't fit for garbage like them. Life out here is not all peace and quiet. The damn wind blows and somehow somebody's cutting into my profits. Just today, some punk little syndicate clown who thinks he's smart tried selling stims without my permission. My partner, Phalaris, is always there to deal with dumb bottom feeders like that.
So, naturally the syndicate would have all sorts of problems with the PIDF given their own activities, but I'm trying to remember where Zoe and their syndicate are discussed, as we know that Zoe isn't technically the leader of them, merely acting leader in place of her father, so makes you wonder about that.
Just like me, he's having fun playing in this little sandbox. Or maybe he just likes eating that white stuff. Huh? Don't look at me like that. Ain't no food today, boy. Go eat some of that white sand.
What?
Another peaceful day on the island. More
What do you mean white? Why? Freaking why? You know what? I shouldn't be surprised. They led their early access trailer by literally showing a bunch of adorable critters with ARs in their hand. I should not be surprised by this.
proof we're having fun playing house, right, Phalaris? Don't worry, I get it. You've got the same eyes as me. You're having fun playing house too, yeah? Or maybe you're just waiting for me to fall over dead. You sure do like eating that white stuff, huh? Maybe the day'll come when I'm just leftovers stuck to your wings. Maybe not. Either way, let's just watch each other's backs until then. Right, partner?
Marcus is the official in charge of the desert island who toys with the lives of the people living there because, like as he calls it, the area is his little sandbox. He sells stims to the people and then arrests them and repossesses his drugs to turn around and sell them again. He even uses drugs to control his pal partner Phalaris in fear that without the cocaina, it'll turn around and eat him the first chance it gets. While Marcus ultimately isn't confident in his ability to control Phalaris, the next tower boss prides himself on just that, control.
On interspecies PAL experiments, results: failure. Attempted to combine various four-legged and winged PALs, but no successful patterns emerged. Some combinations succeeded in creating bodies, but these deteriorated in seconds and all were disposed of. Impressions: reconsideration of chemicals for more response control is necessary. Furthermore, the expansion of species to inspect is also likely necessary.
Okay, so if I remember, so these are the guys who are hanging out in the snowy mountains. So they were doing a bunch of experiments. I can't recall the exact specifics with respect to the main story. I believe that there was some consternation regarding this exact nature of the experiments, as if you're engaging in pal breeding, there's no well, you can technically breed two different species, but you end up getting something very different in the end. For instance, if I think if you take Hell Zephyr and Frost Stallion, you get Frost Stallion knocked. And so you can end up with all sorts of interesting combinations there. And I believe that there is something to that, and that might be what this is tapping into, but I can't recall exactly what kind of experiments were being... Excuse me, my voice is not liking me today. I can't recall exactly what experiments were being done.
We'll reconsider extracting chemicals from Eikthyr deer antlers to create a compound. Storage temperatures also require reconsideration. Note: acquire one ice pal for cooling purposes. Re-examination of base DNA information for the species under consideration is desirable. Analysis of pal DNA information is pressing but requires new equipment. However, the current equipment was coincidentally acquired from outside. There are limits to how far it can be improved. This will require self-made blueprints to create equipment from scratch.
Wait, is that
Victor
where all the
Ashford is
blueprints
the
come
leader of
from?
the PAL Genetic Research Unit, and his goal is to create stronger than normal PALs by any means necessary. To
Is he the one who created the condensation device?
accomplish this mission, he begins conducting multiple experiments, including the process that created Shadowbeak, his main PAL companion.
On the distillation and administration of pals to the same species.
Oh, that answers my question.
Results: success. A certain species of pal was dissolved in liquid and concentrated via distillation. Subsequently, the concentrated liquid was administered to a pal of the same species. As expected, the result yielded an enhancement in the abilities of the administered pal. Impressions: this experiment, initiated as an alternative approach towards generating powerful pals, surprisingly yielded favorable outcomes. Theories postulating that pals of a certain species contain the nutrients most necessary for the same type of pal seem valid. This experiment has accordingly resulted in the enhancement of the test pal's abilities. However, there remains a slight doubt regarding whether the observed enhancement surpasses the anticipated values. Perhaps it is not merely a matter of basic nutrients, but rather we must question whether pals inherently possess a distinct energy source essential for their own existence. Further investigation is required.
Well, given how different they are from ordinary animals, although I guess it depends on the exact world building. So, for Galapagos Islands, is it an isolated place in somewhere like Earth where the creatures just so happen to be very different? Or is it a place where pals are the norm and it just so happens that there's a lot of special stuff going on at these particular islands?
Victor was also the one responsible for the invention of the PAL condenser, which you, the player, can unlock and use. It can be assumed that Victor gains the PALs needed for the experimentation from doing business with poachers like the Rain Syndicate.
On interspecies PAL experiments 2, results: success. Only one specimen emerged, an artificially created new species with 4 legs and wings. It was promptly transferred to the cultivation equipment and has since shown promising progress, steadily maturing. Attempts to reproduce the same process failed. Thus, this miraculous success is attributed to some unknown external factor. Impressions: the success of the experiment is genuinely gratifying. The new species, named Shadowbeak, will continue to be observed closely for further developments. However, the lack of reproducibility of the procedure poses a significant challenge. Hence,
Remind me, I can't recall Shadowbeak being among the pals that I've interacted with. Hang on, I'm gonna pull up another... I'm gonna kill the video real quick so I can pull up a window. I don't remember when or if I would have run into Shadowbeak. And where. Okay, they're tucked away over there. Okay, I probably have encountered them at some point then, but either way. I wonder how they got out then. Either way, let's get back to the video.
Fourth, the plan is to proceed with the experiment, incorporating slight adjustments based on this procedure. Addendum: the disappearance of Alex, who served as a lab assistant, is concerning.
During the last note...
Okay, so I'm pretty sure that... Oh wait, no, we go looking for Alex in the main story, don't we? Okay, neat. So, 1.0's main story had Lily learned of her faction and she was not happy to say the least. Yep, sounds about right. And also Marcus feeds his pal drugs. The community has given the bird various nicknames, my favorite being Powder Parrot. Jeez. Ugh. To be fair, that pal is very aggressive once you get to the World Tree. Holy crap.
He expresses concern about the fact that his lab assistant, Alex, disappeared. Though, he might not have disappeared for good, because there's another character with a name that's likely an anagram.
Oh. Literally the text from his journal, what?
Every day I'm snoring, no rivals to get me going. I don't care about
What the hell am I watching?
they type. Ain't nobody gonna beat my height. Yeah, I'm looking for a fighter, real tough
What the hell am I watching?
brother from another mother. Throwing in the towel just ain't gonna cut it. It's gotta be.
What is this? What is this? God, what? The lore? I'm not convinced.
A knockout, a throwdown brawl out. So fast your eyes will bleed. Yeah, they might
Why are you like this?
fall out. When we ready for battle, best believe the shot gon' rock your socks off. Sawed off. My lightning's tougher than high kings. When it
I have so many questions.
hits the ring, ain't nobody gonna sing for your player. You ready for this hype? You read the words?
No, I'm not ready at all. This segment is needed, super necessary. Lord, you're making me want to time you out. I'm not actually. You're making me wanna.
So get ready for the fight. Yeah, that's right. So get ready for the fight.
Why?
Well, that was something. Axel is...
Why did you? You knew exactly what you were doing. Don't pretend otherwise.
a seemingly simple character whose only desire is to fight a strong, worthy rival in an all-out battle. He actually has 2 more journal placeholders in the game's files, so maybe in the future we'll get a more fleshed out
hang
idea.
on, am I thinking of a different
story
person then?
past. But while he doesn't have much of a story, the next tower boss, Saya, most certainly does.
The moon on these islands remains unchanged. No, is it the true nature of the moon to change its shape? I do not know. Many years ago, a lost soul who washed up on the shore found it strange that the moon never waned, as if time itself had stopped. That person once said the words crescent moon. Those words still stir my heart deeply. When the lost moon appears in this world again, it is said it will be like a blade. Will I be able to witness the blade of the moon that signals the beginning? Tonight is also a full moon. Today's sake tastes awful too.
So if I'm remembering correctly, so this was Sakurajima? Huh? I think it's how you pronounce it. Sakurajima? But I forget exactly the pronunciation or word or exact syllables, but I'm trying to remember the exact nature of this area. So she was meant to be one of the guardians. I think this is the point where the fact that you are a guardian of a particular keystone had become much more prevalent, especially as you go into Fadebreak and eventually Sunreach, with Sakurajima being the starting point for that. So, I guess focusing on externalities to try and take your mind off it, based on what I remember of the fisherman that was concerned about her, yeah, that tracks.
Saya learned from someone who washed up on the shore, perhaps the castaway, that it was unnatural for the moon to remain the same night after night, and furthermore, this unknown person expressed that it was like time didn't pass. After learning that, she strongly desired to witness the crescent moon and mentions feeling distressed at the fact that nothing ever changes and that they're stuck in some sort of state of stagnation.
For countless ages,
Actually, really fitting once we learn more about the World Tree.
we have continued to protect this tower. The reason is unknown. Our conveyed mission is only to maintain this island at a standstill. We hunt the madmen from the snowy mountains who defile the land. We hunt
Jeez.
those who proliferated in excess, those who pontificate about research, justice, and such babble to preserve this landscape forever. Yes, we merely exist here. Our time does not pass. It has become unbearable. Only when intoxicated by sake, intoxicated by myself, can I avoid pondering such unnecessary matters. How long has it been since I can no longer enjoy the taste of alcohol? Someone, please, shine a light on this perpetual darkness. Tonight is also a full moon. Today's sake tastes awful, too.
Well, you're drinking it in a teacup, so of course it's... Okay, no, I'm not. Yes, I am going to make that joke. Either way, so yeah, that does track with what we're shown. Interesting how much you were able to glean based on just those journal entries. Lined up pretty well, actually. I wonder how much they had planned ahead for stuff like this. Fascinating.
Seemingly her only objective, as well as those of the other tower bosses, is to just protect the tower that they're in and keep everything the exact same. The madmen from the snowy mountains she suggests they hunt is probably Victor's faction, and those who have proliferated in excess could be any group that have grown too large, which suggests that her faction is the reason there's not a larger population of people on the island.
There's a disarray among the ones from the volcano. Rumor has it their leader has changed. Before, their ways weren't so extreme, but now they're consumed by a bloody struggle against the maniacs from the White Mountain. Those lunatics, those unscrupulous people who disgrace this place. So, this situation benefits us. But why did they start fighting now? I do not know what their leader is thinking, but I hope they do not tarnish our land. Tonight is also a full moon. Today's sake tastes awful, too.
Then change up your drink from Okay, come on, I gotta make that joke. Come on, change up your drink then. It's fine.
Saya also mentions how the people at the volcano had a recent change in leadership and immediately engaged in a war with the maniacs from the White Mountain. A hint that Axel may actually be Alex, the research lab assistant. Who could have seen this coming?
The moon has reached out to our pitiful selves. The crescent moon I longed for.
Jeez, calm down, chat. Sounds like she needs help. A suicidally depressed alcoholic. The most relatable... If that's the most relatable character in the game, you need help. You need to talk to someone. If it tastes bad, why drink it? There's a lot of reasons that a man or woman may drink. Not all of them because they like the taste. I will say no more. And I do not endorse that, just to be clear. Never mind that I'm reaching the end of my drink right now.
So dearly is now right before me. The everlasting darkness has lifted. It is clear to me. This creature is the one who will lead us to the end. No matter how our time ends, until that moment, I will be with you. Incarnation of the crescent moon, blade of beginnings. Please, illuminate our path. Tonight is also a full moon. Today's sake tastes delicious. There is one...
Is that when you met your pal? Presumably so. I'm trying to remember if I caught one in the World Tree. I did encounter one in the World Tree, but I think I accidentally killed it. That's what I get for relying on Frostallion for everything, right?
who is trying to pull out the stakes. I hear the sound of the end. Now to just sit and wait. And so, us, who just existed here, please destroy us. With the blade of the crescent moon, let the beginning of our time be announced. And with death, we shall be released from our shackles. Tonight, the moon is hidden from view. Today's sake is incredibly delightful.
You weren't kidding about the suicidally depressed, damn.
Lastly, Sai talks about someone who is pulling out the stakes, which is you, the player, and she begs for you to defeat her so that she can be free from the burden of duty to keep things the exact same forever. While Saya was added to the game quite a while after the original launch of Palworld, this next tower boss was there from the beginning, and is perhaps the most popular antagonist.
Well,
I
yeah.
don't have a family. My father disappeared a long time ago, and I've never seen my mother's face. The only ones who raised me are those guys and Griswold. That's why I know I have no choice but to survive in this tiny little world. Those guys all chase around pals with their guns. They capture the ones they hurt and sell them to these other weird guys. In return, they get food. They even share it with me. That's why I don't have to be hungry. I don't think any of those guys really care about me. They just keep me alive because I'm the daughter of one of their bosses. I still believe that, even if I'm a boss now too.
Zoe's parents weren't around. Her father disappeared when she was young, and she doesn't even recall what her mother looked like. The other weird guys that the Syndicate henchmen are capturing and selling pals to could be Victor's group, considering his constant need for so many pals for pal
Or the
condensing and
PIDF.
experimentation.
Griswold was one of the pals they were gonna sell, but she looked so lonely in her cage. She was just like me. And father, I thought. I was still so little back then, so I couldn't control myself. I waited until everybody was sleeping, opened Griswold's cage, and ran off far away with her. I shared half a slice of my breakfast toast with her, but we were both hungry by evening and went back to the base. Of course, all the guys were super angry. They threw me in a cage with Griswold, and I thought we were gonna get taken away. But Griswold protected me. Not even their guns or bats could beat her. How did she even get captured in the first place if she's that strong? I bet she didn't even try to escape. That big dummy. I gave Griswold a command, and she called down a huge bolt of lightning that wiped out all the guys. They didn't wake up until the next morning. Ever since then, I've been with Griswold.
Huh. I would have expected more of a direct line for how she had ended up in a position of authority with the Syndicate, but makes you wonder who her father is then for it to have reached that point. Fascinating. No wonder why she's more amenable even after we beat her down, and why she thought to try and beat us up the moment we show up rather than talk, especially with what they added.
There's a group that opposes ours, stationed a little ways away from where we live. They don't like the way we sell pals and use weapons. Our group sneers at them and calls them the Free Pal Alliance. We're always fighting with them for no reason. If I stop and think about it, I bet they're not bad people if they love pals that much. I asked one of the guys who's been around for a long time about it, but he said it was complicated. Apparently, our group has been around for a long time, and we've always been fighting with those FPA guys.
We've always been at war with East Asia. Wait, am I thinking of the right quotes? But, you know what? It doesn't matter. If it's wrong, it makes it even better.
He said he doesn't know the real reason behind it, but we've been fighting for so long that there's no hope of ever getting along.
In Fair Verona, where we lay our scene. Wait, wrong script.
Zoe's questioning of the reason for the conflict between the Syndicate and the FPA, and the response she received about how neither side even really knows why they're fighting anymore, is a consistent theme throughout much of the story.
Sometimes I wonder if there's anything beyond the sea. The only thing I could see far off in the distance is that huge tree. I've never heard anyone talk about what's beyond that place. Apparently, some brave guy from long ago went to see the outside world, but he never came back. I have heard about people coming from beyond the sea, though. I don't know what those kinds of people do, but they say they use tools different from our own. That's why I know there must be something beyond the sea.
Interesting. Actually, that could... Depending on how they explore the rest of the world, I suppose that would allow them to do all sorts of stuff with the franchise going forward, wouldn't it? Because depending on what pals are out there, depending on what does lie beyond the world, different tools. I wonder if that just means that... Does it mean that that Palapagos is this isolated, just unknown place? Is that going to be what they use for justifying the MMO's existence? I think it's MMO that another studio is working on, but either way, I guess we will find out.
A whole bunch of islands, a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of things. It sounds scary, but I'd like to try going sometime.
Zoe wonders about the outside world and expresses her desire to explore it, even if it seems scary to her.
I've started to wonder, why am I guarding this big tower again? I always thought it was obvious since Father also used to do this, but now that I think about it, I have no idea why. From what I've heard about it, they say there's a legend passed down on this island. They say this tower is somehow related to that legend, and that it has some big, great power. What kind of power, I wonder? Even if that's true, why does that power have to be protected? Anyway, even though I don't really know why, I'm always here, protecting this tower.
But the only reason we have a red base over here is because they have a blue base over there. And the only reason they have a blue base over there is because we have a red base over here. Someone had to make the joke, come on.
There are other towers around the island, and they say people like me guard them all.
The tower bosses don't really know the purpose behind the towers they so desperately guard, or why things are the way they are. Just forced to repeat the same cycle over and over again, you can see why Saya was so desperate for it to end so that she could finally be set free. All Zoe knows is that there's a kind of legend passed down on the island and that the towers are somehow linked to it. The towers themselves also possess a great power. Hey, it's kind of like the obelisk from Ark. And hey, speaking of Ark, if you liked the voice actor I hired for Nerva, most of you probably have no idea what I'm talking about, well, I also hired that same guy to voice this next tower boss from Palworld, Bjorn.
Oh boy.
For that day, which may or may not come, I have pursued strength relentlessly. Have I ever doubted its path, even once? Nay, and it seems I shall not end as a fool. The nuisance will surely find its way. Long ago, the wise ones, with the light of their wisdom, raised the towers on these islands as the foundation of a fleeting peace. Now, even as it stirs chaos, the nuisance will see them clearly.
So is the nuisance referring to us then? Potentially.
How ironic. Is it all bad? Nay. Thanks to this ever-present reminder, I shall not forget my duty. For the nameless souls of the past, I shall slay this one nameless outsider.
Oh yeah, definitely talking about us interfering.
The burden shall be fulfilled.
And if memory serves, this guy is really, really old to the point where he may be one of the few people who actually does remember the purpose of these towers, at least. Yeah, I think it's only him and the Sunreach boss that remember the exact purpose.
The nuisance that Bjorn references is your character. It's great that in the later updates that actually add new characters, they actually refer to your actions. It makes the world feel more alive and reactive to the player, and I hope they continue to do so in future updates. Bjorn mentioned that the wise ones built the towers as a foundation of a fleeting peace, which does give me some ideas as to what the towers are and what their purpose could be.
This place is cursed. Nay, it is I and Bastigor who are cursed. Thousands of years ago, when the colossal fortress still stood in this land, reaching towards the heavens, it appeared suddenly. The heavens shattered and we fell disgracefully. Our kin, who once looked down upon others from the sky, fled in panic, tails between their legs. But I, nay, my ancestors alone, did not abandon this land, reduced to ashes, nor its people, fallen from the sky. We gathered the bewildered folk and bared our fangs against it.
Given what we found out it was, yep, still all lines up, so fair enough. Good that they were keeping all this in mind.
From that moment, we forged an unchanging resolve, becoming the people of the Faebreak. And so, my kin, who once merely sullied the lowest ranks, took a new throne and vowed to bear all burdens.
Interesting. So I wonder how many of the Faebreak remember those old days as well, since that he seemingly does, or at least remembers enough of those days, even if he may not remember the exact specifics. Interesting. I personally view Galapagos as being in our world, but as hidden it like as anyone who enters is unable to leave. Kind of like Isekai, but not really. Fair enough. Although, we'll see how much the status quo changes given, the events of the story, I suppose.
Bjorn also makes mention of the destruction of his ancestors' colossal fortress by something only referred to as It, which appeared suddenly and began laying waste to the island. All of Bjorn's kin fled from it except his ancestors, who immediately began gathering an army to fight back against it.
The battle against it did not end, even with the aid of a thunder dragon, a pair of celestial beings, and the wisdom of a noble paladin. We could not bring about its destruction. The celestial beings, determined not to let it escape, shrouded the island in an unending winter night. The Black Pegasus melted into the night and vanished. This land became still, unseen.
Black Pegasus, that can't be referring to the dragon that they sealed away. Frostalian Nox, perhaps?
Leaving the island became impossible. The paladin, ashamed of his failure, split himself in two, vowing never to show mercy again.
I wonder if that could be the twin bosses that you see near the third Pal Sanctuary.
The dragon vanished beyond the reach of the flash, disappearing from sight. In hindsight, perhaps it has now returned, because it has sensed the coming of that day.
Jet Dragon,
now, here we are. It still slumbers. Do I guard this land, truly, for the sake of duty? Nay, no matter the pretense, I cannot hide it. Perhaps I simply wish to meet a worthy foe.
They weren't alone in fighting this threat, as a band of pals also offered their aid. This included the Thunder Dragon.
That image of of the lamb ball just sitting in a bunch of machine gun turrets, that always makes me laugh.
Dragon, a pair of celestial beings, and a noble paladin. They fought hard against the creature, but were ultimately unable to defeat it. In a last act of desperation to prevent the creature from escaping, the celestial beings shrouded the island in an unending winter night, which made it impossible to leave. Afterwards, the noble paladin split himself into two as repentance for his failure, and the Thunder Dragon disappeared in a flash of light, but has now actually recently returned because it sensed the coming of that day, and that the ancient creature it had fought long ago still slumbers.
I wonder
Makes you
if
wonder
the
where
lone
Pantala
daughter
sits in
of
that.
Rain's blood is well. I did her a disservice. In any case,
Wait, what?
the last time I saw her, she's still at her mother's breast. She will not remember me. Her father and I never saw eye to eye. He was not a man driven by duty or the past. The day we parted ways, I gave him a final test.
Hang on.
A foolish pretense. In the end, it was nothing more than childish spite. Surprisingly, he accepted without hesitation. He turned out to be a man of principle, more than I had expected. It was a task even a child could manage, but he never returned.
Wait, that's where her father ended up? Sent along on what seemed a simple task but ended up more than that? Huh.
Since then, the young ones who had gathered around him were left without leadership. But it seems his daughter has taken the helm and brought some semblance of order. Though our paths diverged, she has faithfully upheld the mission to guard the tower. Indeed, she is truly your child.
Fascinating.
Bjorn then talks about the Rain Girl, referring to Zoe, expressing remorse at the fact that he feels like he's the reason that she had to grow up without a father. Bjorn had disliked her father and challenged him to a test, expecting him to decline like a coward, but the man surprised Bjorn by accepting to go off on the mission and never returned. It's not specified what the challenge was, only that even a child could complete it. Bjorn also mentions that there were young ones.
Although, to be fair, with what Bjorn is capable of, I suspect his perception of what a child is capable of may end up becoming very distorted.
That gathered around him, which were ultimately left without leadership. This could suggest that the Rain Syndicate henchmen were also children as well when he disappeared, leading to potentially a kind of Lord of the Flies situation before Zoe stepped in and took charge as she got older.
Just if everything were to end, and I were freed from all burdens, what would I do? An old man with little time left. What would I do? Surely I would continue to fight until I crumbled to dust. The world must be vast. Surely there are warriors beyond my imagination, countless in number. If so, perhaps I should repair that old ship. It has been too long since I last sailed the seas. And Bastigor, it is about time for you too as well. After dealing with the nuisance, perhaps I will seek a mate for you.
Well, there are Bastigor over at the World Tree, so...
Bjorn leaves off, expressing that if he was freed of his burdens, he would like to repair one of the wrecked ships.
I wonder if No, he couldn't have been the castaway, but... I wonder if he knew the castaway.
And set off in search of the world's strongest warriors to challenge, and now he'd like to find a mate for his partner, Bastigor.
Okay, I was about to say, come on, you can't just use that.
That was a lot of information, and unfortunately we're left with more questions than we are answers. But I have some ideas as to the nature of a few ambiguous leads we've got, so let's jump into it. The legendary pals who fought against the creature weren't referred to by name, but with a little research in the PAL deck entries for pals, a few stand out that might give some insight on their true identities. Firstly, the mysterious Thunder Dragon. Bjorn mentions that it disappeared beyond the reach of the Flash, and the breaking of the sound barrier sounds a lot like the clap of thunder. So perhaps its name of the Thunder Dragon was actually due to the noise it produced with its breakneck speed. Something that offers credence to this is that Jetragon's PAL deck entry talks about how, when the Calamity awakens again, splitting the earth and setting the heavens on fire, he will destroy it with a glare of complete obliteration. With that information, it could be safe to assume that this is most likely the case. The Thunder Dragon is probably the Jetragon. Next, and probably the most obvious answer, the identity of the two halves of the noble paladin, Palladius and Necromus. Their PAL deck entries refer to the fact that they used to be one singular pal at some point in time, which is all but guaranteed to be our mysterious noble paladin. Lastly, we have our pair of celestial beings. Celestial is a bit ambiguous, but after some digging through the PAL deck, I think I figured out who they are. Frostalion and Frostalion Noct state in each of their respective PAL deck entries about them being known as the Winter Caller and the Night Caller. When a calamity struck the land, they soared into the sky and sealed away the threat by casting the island into an eternal winter night. So with the guardian deities figured out, let's speculate as to the identity of the ancient threat. Unfortunately, there's no clear answer that we can come to as to what they might be. Probably because...
And it ended up being an entirely different creature from anything that we had access to before World Tree, I believe.
Pocket Bear is going to add it as the final boss of their 1.0 release. But we can only take a guess while pondering over the journal and PAL deck entries. Something about Bjorn's choice of language in referencing the heavens shattering and then having fallen from the sky in relation to the calamity-causing creature leads me to consider if the calamity was in fact aliens. Hear me out. Throughout your exploration,
it was not
of the
alien.
Islands, you've surely...
Actually, one of the threats wasn't alien, but it could be that it was alien.
Come across meteorite drop events where, upon reaching it, you're attacked by alien-like pals like Xenovader and Xenoguard, whose PAL deck entries make mention that they're sending information to someone. With the release of Faebreak, a new summonable boss was released as well, just a little something called Xenolord. Xenolord...
I don't think I've fought that one yet, because I haven't spent a lot of time with... Yeah, because I haven't spent a lot of time with them as I've been relying on brute force for a lot of the summonable raids. I should probably change that now that I'm throwing more into Frostalion. Although, I did hit the credits and I've been a bit occupied with other games, so I haven't been able to dig too far into it. Honestly, I've beaten the final battle, at least, so by technicality I could call it there, but it feels like I've yet to plumb the depths, as it were. I feel like I could spend the next 200, well, I could spend 200 hours with the game and not see everything it has to say for itself.
PAL deck entry makes mention that it's in search of something called the Supersonic Dragon, which sounds a lot like Jetragon. It also mentions that the conquest deadline was exceeded by error code 126 DC years. So depending on what the error code refers to as the amount of years, it could very well line up with the Calamity thousands of years ago. If we're assuming the Calamity is indeed an alien invasion, we have to wonder, why have they taken thousands of years to invade the island only to basically make no progress up to the present day? I believe it has something to do with the towers and the World Tree itself. See, when you first wash up on the island, your tablet displays a cryptic message that states that the towers are the key and the World Tree holds the truth. The meteorite events don't spawn in the starting areas around the first tower, so it can be assumed gameplay-wise that players typically don't witness their first meteor drop event until after they've defeated the first tower. I think that's intentional, and that the game wants you to make a correlation that as you beat the towers, the Xeno invaders are able to start invading your world. My theory is that the towers are sealing the way to the World Tree, and that either in or under the World Tree resides the Calamity slumbering.
Well, there was something sealed away in the World Tree, but so I guess that was technically still accurate, but still.
Away, awaiting the day when it can reawaken and wreak havoc anew. As to the
I mean, that was true.
identity of the Calamity, that is more than likely the ruler of Xenos, potentially a Xeno queen or something of that nature. And without their leader, the Xeno invasion ground to a halt until you began loosening the barrier on the World Tree. And if that's the case, would that make you the villain? You, the player, loosening the seal, keeping the Calamity locked away? Well, yes
Not
and
in
no.
this
See,
time.
the island has been in a sense of stagnation for thousands of years, sealed away with no way to escape and completely cut off from the rest of the world. The denizens forced to remain in a perpetual state of existence that never changes, and not even remembering the reason for their missions. This is especially obvious in Zoe, Saya, and Bjorn's journal notes, where they express dissatisfaction at the fact they're being forced to guard the towers forever, bound to their duty, and Zoe and Saya not even knowing the reason behind their lifelong duty. The people of the Palpagos Islands are prisoners, and your quest to seek out the World Tree and defeat the Calamity will free them. But that's just a theory. Ultimately,
Okay, good joke, good joke. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Bjorn could snap a dragon's neck when he was a toddler. His name is Nordic, after all.
just have to see what Pocket Pair has in store for us in the coming updates leading up to their 1.0 release, and I really hope they do some more of those dope cinematics like from the Faybreak trailer. Come on guys, please
Wait,
bring
that
your
wasn't even
characters to
yours?
life and make it
Jeez.
authentic. Palworld has many intersecting plot lines, and although they are simple, they are substantive. Whether it's the conflict between Victor and his old lab assistant, Saya, Bjorn, and Zoe's frustrations of being duty-bound to guard their respective towers forever, or the hypocrisy of Lily's FPA and her ignorance to their misguided actions, the narrative is being fleshed out over time, and as Palworld releases each major update, we're able to watch that story expand into a compelling tale that enables us to be even more immersed as time goes on. Because as you're playing the game, why wouldn't you want to have a deeper connection and understanding to the backstory of the very world that you're playing in? Pocket Bear is doing an amazing job in the lore department, and I can't wait to see what direction they go in the future in regard to the Castaway, the Towers, the World Tree, and even the Calamity that someday may threaten the Palpagos Islands again. But what do you think? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below on Palworld's lore and any ideas you might have on how everything ties together. Like this video if it was helpful or
Okay, good comment. Right out.
entertaining, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye everyone.
Alrighty then. So, solid production value. Actually, that's loud. I'm gonna turn that down. So, solid production value. Definitely brought forth stuff that I wasn't aware of and need to go digging further into. But yeah, good stuff. Needy the Noodle wasn't far off, and the main threat was a dragon, presumably from outer space. Though what he nor me could have guessed was that the whole reason everything went wrong started with, yeah, looks like I got only the first half of that, so we'll see what else is said. An avian getting friend-zoned by a dragon. Okay, I don't remember it being quite like that, but... well, either way. There you go. Alrighty, so, interesting little video. I suspect it may be better to leave the follow-up for other people to explore first. Maybe we give that a few more weeks, although, given how busy I'm gonna be in about in a couple of weeks, by the time we are able to see to that, it should have enough time to find everyone who is going to seek it out normally. So that should work out fine enough. Alright, is there anything else that I need to worry about for chat? Yeah, looks like we're good there. Alrighty, so we've gotten from the Palworld part of the video to what is going to be the fun part of the video to an extent. So it's kind of funny in a way that the Palworld response video I did ended up doing as well as it did, because it turns out that the guy I was responding to is, at least in some circles, fairly well known, in that he is a well-known hot take machine who will blindly defend Nintendo at every given moment, and I just so happen to have stumbled into something absolutely insane. Let's see. That patron name in the middle, though. Oh, there's an even worse one on the top left. Oh, boy. Well, either way, let's ignore that. still, putting that aside, so it turns out that I've ended up stumbling into quite the rabbit hole with respect to the particular individual at play. And it's actually kind of funny because if you go into the comments on the video, the tweet that sent me on this rabbit hole to begin with actually came from a YouTuber who has talked about this particular individual in the past. So, since that, it was this guy over here, Gara of the Rage, who sent me on this rabbit hole with his tweet. I figured, you know what? We may as well check out what he's up to. So, seems to do the whole response video type thing. So, talking through relatively recent stuff. So, talking about gaming news. And then occasionally some more serious topics, as there's been some dispute over how real the accusations against Blizzard were back when they were throwing a lot of stuff around, yada yada yada. So, somewhat clickbait as far as the topics and titles, but to be fair, everyone engages in that a little bit. And what we're going to be looking at here is, I thought, this looks like it'll be fun. So, you've been aware of this guy for a while. This video came out about a month, so I believe by this point we had the exact date for when Palworld 1.0 would release, but it hadn't released just yet. So, because of that, I think this was when we had the 1.0 trailer, and this is an instance of the guy... Wow. Oh geez, there's another one too that's more recent? Maybe we should go for that one. You know what? We will see what this one has to say for itself, and if it ends up being an interesting rabbit hole, we'll check out the other one. Okay, sounds good? From my understanding, Harmon Smith is a lolcow. It's like finding Darkside Phil or Christian for the first time. Probably not as severe as Christian, to be fair, but I guess DSP might be a good comparison, at least based on what I've seen thus far. And we will be spending a bit more time getting to know Mr. Harmon Smith, but that will be, well, through this video and through the next one I have in mind. But for now, let's see what kind of content Gara of the Rage puts out, see what he has to say for himself.
Isn't this...
I don't want to make this video. I'm sorry, I had to make that joke. It's something you hear all the time when YouTubers get into drama where they just do this. I don't want to make this video, but no, you clearly want to make this video. Let's see what you got to say. Let's rewind you to where I give you proper time.
Isn't this funny? This is how this comes full circle already? It's amazing how it just happens. Nintendo.
Okay, well, why is Nintendo being brought up? Oh, well, I guess we'll find out. Jay, do you think you'll ever have a rabbit hole of your own? Given that I am a YouTube hobbyist, I suspect not. I'd have to do something really silly in order to reach that point. Although, I suppose, well, check back in a couple of years. We'll see how well my video game does in that time, right?
It's just like, I tried saying it, guys. I say, don't listen to the fanboys because they don't have your best interest here. Well, guess what? You guys listen to the rabid fan base of yours, and guess what happened?
That I will disagree with you on, because I don't think Nintendo listens to their fan base in the way that is often assumed as such. So, I did watch the first minute. So, full disclosure, I watched about the first minute of this video to try and get a sense for what the guy's focus would be. So, my thinking, this is what he'll discuss is that Nintendo went ahead with going in and putting in a lawsuit at the behest of their fan base who are clamoring for them to do something, although I don't necessarily think it's to the same degree, because Nintendo would be aware of conversation regarding business in the industry. And as far as their Western audience, though, I don't think they listen to them in this way that we would assume. Because you gotta remember that Nintendo's understanding of the internet, especially the Japanese part of the studio, is archaic at best. So, I don't know if they listen to their fan base insofar as they look at what sells, and they look at, and they use that as a barometer to figure out, okay, what this worked, this didn't. But I don't know if they necessarily listened when they said, hey, you should sue them, because you are going to consult your lawyers before you're going to consult with your fan base. At least you should be. I don't think Nintendo would have the war chest that they do if that were the case. So, we'll see.
Y'all lost patents. Y'all lost something more precious than money than you guys actually hold to your guys' chest very close. You lost patents.
Now, to be fair, I believe they have... I can't remember the specifics, but I do believe in the course of their attempts to go after Pocket Pair, they have lost a couple of their patents, or rather they ended, well, with a couple of them being thrown out and a couple ones they tried to add also getting thrown out. So I do wonder, well, I don't know all the specifics, so don't take my opinion as gospel on this topic, but I do remember that being discussed.
And now you're trying to get them back as probably as hardcore as it possibly can. And guess what, Nintendo? You're not taking Palworld off the market. So that's a huge L right there.
Well, was their objective to take Palworld off the market? I think that's an important question to ask, because just as Harmon has speculated that, hey, Palworld only exists to piss off Nintendo and their fan base, is Nintendo's objective just to force Pocket Palworld off the market? You could argue that they attempted to kneecap it, given that they had to modify some mechanics, which, in terms of throwing a Pal Sphere in order to summon a creature, yeah, that does nerf it a little bit, though with everything else that Palworld is doing, it doesn't hurt it that much in the grand scheme of things.
That, like, you've wasted probably so much manpower. I'm probably talking about, like, millions, and funds, too. You probably wasted, like, millions upon millions. And from what they say, the most that you could probably get out of this court hearing is, like, $30K. Yeah.
Well, I guess the question is, what kind of precedent will this set? Because if Pocket Pair doesn't have, well, if Nintendo doesn't have to pay back the attorney's fees, even if they lose, that's still going to be a pretty penny out of Pocket Pair, where they had to waste time worrying about litigation instead of focusing on the game, which, to Pocket Pair's credit, they still knuckled down and got the game done, but still.
Yeah, even if you guys win in this situation, guess what? The older version of Palworld is pretty much gone. So, yeah, congrats. Guess what? You're going to be able to get, like, what, $30K for the time that was sold in Japan?
And to be fair, as another aspect of this, even if they were able to bring the whole game down, Pirates would Streisand the game into the stratosphere, and there's almost certainly mods already, though I haven't looked too closely at it, that restore those original mechanics that, I mean, they're mods. What are you going to do?
Like, good job, Nintendo. You listened to the most brain-dead fan base out of the whole freaking gaming industry.
Now, that I will disagree. I don't think they listened to their fan base. I think they heard their fan base clamoring, asked their lawyers to look into it. Lawyers thought they could act upon it, so they acted upon it. I don't think Nintendo is that silly. I mean, let's be honest, if they listened to their fan base that much, they'd arguably be in a worse spot, relatively speaking.
Like, congrats right there. Like, your fanboys literally dug your guys' grave right there, and you guys lost so much control and so much power that you guys had. It's funny.
Well, depends on the precedent set by this lawsuit, but we'll see.
But you know what, though? We're not going to be talking almost directly about the Palworld lawsuit and its update and how much of an L Nintendo is going to be taking in this discussion. No, we're going to talk about a Nintendo fanboy who actually still thinks, in his little dweeb little mind over here, that Nintendo is going to win this lawsuit and is going to put the developers of Palworld out of business.
Interesting, because he was saying in the video that I responded to that that Nintendo deserved to win, but with Sony's involvement, it was a toss-up. Interesting. So he's already hedged his bets once within the course of what, a month and a half? Fascinating.
I'm not joking. Here's your clip.
Deal with the massive L against Nintendo. They are doing everything they possibly can before the court ruling completely makes their company inoperable.
Wait, I thought that they were putting out 1.0 to try and take advantage of the TCG release and sell a few cards. Hang on, get your story straight.
I think we all know where this is going, so let's just skip to the end.
I need to go find that clip. I'll need it for my Fire Emblem Engage critique.
Take me to a world
Alright, so gotta do the usual shtick if you're doing this as a full-time gig. Fair enough. Okay. Alright, so usual disclaimers, yada yada yada.
I very well may be the only person on YouTube who came out and told you exactly how this was going to end.
Oh no, I see a old school Keemstar. Okay, what's this gonna be? Okay, good clip, good clip. Good clip, good clip. Okay, that can't be real. Hang on. I don't remember. To be fair, I didn't watch a lot of Keemstar back in the day, but I was probably a little too old for the target demo at the time, but jeez. That's gotta be an act, right? Yeah, that's an act. It's still funny, but it's an act. Lovely music. Oh, that's what you're fixating on? Oh, well. The Amazing World of Gumball is such a gem. Oh, well, I'll like to check it out at some point, but I feel like in a few years I'm going to scroll on YouTube and see the dark truth behind me, and viewer discretion. Who do you think I am? Is this just because of the My Clum documentary? That's what I get for going near the drama sphere. Sphere? Sphere! Ugh, I'm even losing my ability to speak. Okay, where's my water? I need to... Well, that's what I get for having a tall drink before starting. Okay. Sorry about that, boys. We're good. Yeah, this is definitely performative, but it is funny.
I don't know what land you live in, but if you actually think it's going to happen the way that you actually think it's going to happen, I'm sorry to say it. Actually, no, I'm not. It's not going to end in Nintendo's favor.
Anything could happen? I think you're referring to my comments, so you know what? Let me put it this way. There would be a lot that would have... Well, no, I'm not even going to entertain that thought. Nope, not even going to entertain that thought.
Because
What the hell are you doing? Come on. Don't get distracted. Focus.
We already have people predicting that are actually gone through these type of litigation are literally saying Nintendo has a very slim chance to get a W. And the only W they'll get out of this one is the $30,000 that they'll get back in supposed damages.
Keemstar used to be a major troll. It's how the drama of him making a bunch of racist comments got so big. Yep, I remember those days. I remember when everybody would just say, Alex! Oh man, that's old-timey YouTube.
I told you that
Yeah, all that to say, getting back to the video at hand, yeah, come on. It's unlikely that Nintendo makes a significant dent. I worry a little bit about the precedent, but Nintendo's not going to make a dent in Pocket Pair at this point.
Palworld would not stay relevant long-term.
Do we need to pull out the Steam charts? Hang on, where's my Brave tab? Never mind that, that's if we have time. Where's my... Hang on, let's pull up Steam DB. Came up fast because it's the only thing I've been looking at. Not relevant at all, huh? Admittedly, that was last Sunday, and then this is this weekend, so still holding pretty consistent. I haven't been playing it as much because I've been trying to spend some time wrapping up some gameplay with Fire Emblem Engage, so I haven't spent as much time with it, but still doing respectably. Still doing quite respectably. I guess to give a sense for that, if we go to steamdb.info, I mean, number 3 right now? Consistently number 3 for the last while? Yeah. I'd say it's doing fine. I'd say it's doing just fine. Given the circumstance. Also, that is a name and a half.
That it was only being hyped up to downplay Pokemon, that it didn't have...
Harmon, I don't think you understand, like, at all. I could tell you this about a million times, but it wouldn't exactly go through your head. Do you understand? Because of you and the other Nintendo fanboys, this game got the hype that it actually deserved.
I wonder about that, but let's hear your thoughts.
You do realize you guys comparing this to Pokemon, bad-mouthing this game the whole time, and Nintendo taking to the, you know, to basically a lawsuit, basically, pretty much skyrocket this game's popularity. And it's because of you guys.
To be fair, the comparisons and calling it Pokemon with guns did put it on a lot of people's radar. There's a reason why it got something like 2 million on as its peak concurrent back in the initial early access release, because it got plastered all over the internet. And to be fair, there was a lot of juicy material to work with, and given how much Nintendo has built up just as much of a fan base as much, well, an anti-fan base just as much as a fan base directly, I mean, one can hardly blame them, especially given that PC and Nintendo don't always get along given the whole emulator discussion.
This is a Pokemon ripoff, and Nintendo is now in the process of beating these people in court, getting their payout, and hopefully getting their injunction against them.
I forgot about that trailer. That was cute.
There are so many clear differences between.
Wait, I think we just figured out why Alex left the PGRU. He got called slurs. Really? We're gonna... You know what? That shouldn't have gotten me. Okay. This is why I shouldn't drink before stream.
Between Pokemon and, Palworld over here. You just refuse to play Palworld and actually see the differences. Because if you actually did that, well, you would actually be proven wrong, but you don't want to be proven wrong, right? Because in front of your own audience members, they would actually disown you for how small they truly are.
Now, we won't know the results of this lawsuit until November, but I have noticed that a lot of Palworld YouTubers are in full damage control mode. For example,
which YouTubers are in full damage control mode exactly? Which Palworld YouTubers in general? I don't know a lot of YouTubers who are just focusing explicitly on Palworld. There are, as we discussed in my response video, the Culture War channels that talk about all sorts of topics, with the Palworld lawsuit being amongst that, but,
one of the copes that has come out recently is that...
Well, you're not even going to name names? Why do you never name names? Except on your articles on their website that nobody reads.
This idea that Nintendo focusing on the older version of Palworld, the one that existed before they patched it to remove the similarities to Pokemon.
Oh, so all the similarities to Pokemon are gone then, huh? Oh, so I don't have to worry about anything. So this is all a moot discussion, huh? Okay, cool. The only Palworld YouTuber I know by name is the Pal Professor. I'll have to check that out then.
Did that somehow...
To be fair, specialty YouTube channels are much less common nowadays, given that gaming YouTube as a whole has become rather saturated.
Nulls the lawsuit, and that somehow means Palworld is going to get off scot-free?
Yes, they do. Because you know what saved them in the end, Harmon? And I'm pretty sure you can't figure this one out because your brain's probably smaller than a peanut, because let's be honest here.
Don't insult peanuts like that.
The early access tag on it means that the game is not the final product, meaning they could change anything in the game within the time limit. So, you know what's really funny though? I think this was a trap set up by the Palworld developer.
Okay, that's being a little too conspiratorial. Come on, nobody wants to take a lawsuit to the face, let's be honest.
So they could trap Nintendo in, so they could actually take a big hit to losing a lot of money.
I feel like you're just going the opposite direction of Harmon on this point. It feels like you're acting a little too conspiratorial here, although you could argue this is hyperbolic. I could end up being clip-chimped right now, but this could be hyperbolic just to throw rhetoric back in the face, but come on.
And
nobody goes... Well, one does not simply put out a video game just to invoke a lawsuit. Come on.
Losing the potential patents that they have. And trust me, that's what it's starting to look like.
Like they stole mechanics from Pokemon. They stole the brand. They tried very, very hard to grift off the product, and Nintendo is demonstrating that in court.
How?
That Palworld existing damage their brand.
How?
So wait, Harmon, I thought you always say that Palworld isn't big enough to damage Nintendo or Game Freaks or Pokemon's companies, basically Pokemon's image.
Remember when in early access when you had to spend a bunch of time foraging for resources, and now you don't have to worry about that as much? They've improved a lot.
They could not damage it at all. So which is it? Is it damaging their image, or is it not damaging their image? On top of that too, I don't think I remember actually Nintendo making mounts in the first place, to where you could actually mount your, like, your creatures and
They did that for Legends Arceus, to be fair. Remind me, Legends Arceus came out in 22. So, yes, they had mounts back then. I think they had, 5 Hisuian Pokemon that you could do that with. Weirdeer, Sneasler, Hisuian Braviary, amongst others. So, they did have mounts, although... Pocket Bears Illuminati. Well, the majority of people aren't going to go read the his boring articles, so he's more comfortable with calling out people by name and them. Yeah, fair enough. That arguably is the case, so fair enough.
type.
Though, I do wonder about that, because there's a degree of invincibility, for lack of a better word, that you can get by being just the small fry, relatively speaking, but at the same time, if your goal is to get widespread attention, you can't act like with that invincibility forever, because eventually it comes back to bite you. It's honestly why we shouldn't, to an extent, it's a reason why we shouldn't allow teenagers to post online. You do not need to see your cringy middle school self reflected back on you 20 years later.
Stuff. I don't think I remember them creating the mechanic to where you could throw objects to capture creatures, Harmon. Try again.
How all these YouTubers who know nothing about Pokemon or about gaming in general, like, religiously tried advocating for Palworld, trying to say it was this huge cultural thing, that it was gonna, like, destroy Pokemon in relevancy.
And who are these people? Even now I'm still asking this.
Nobody said that it was going to destroy Pokemon. It was
Okay, good. I'm not the only one saying that he's insane.
to give it some competition. Like what you motherfuckers like to say, that, exclusive creates competition and
How, to be fair, but...
stuff. But when the competition comes around, Nintendo wants to sue it right into the ground, aka Palworld. And guess what? It didn't happen this time, so cry me a river. On top of that, too, those same YouTubers that you're criticizing right now actually saw this outcome actually happening, because, they actually did the research. Also, I don't want to hear it from the person that thought Samus Aran was originally a man.
That's not real. That can't be real. No, that's not real. I mean, my first introduction to Samus was through Smash Bros, and I stubbornly clung onto that, but I was 7. Come on! Don't tell me that he believed that when he's an adult. Don't tell me that.
Even though in the original games it showed she was actually a woman. So guess what, Harmon? You're the tourist here, not us.
We have seen...
I have so many questions. Please, I need that link. Please tell me where he said that. Please tell me where that ended up being the case. I need more context for that. Holy crap. I recently saw a video comparing Palworld to the newest Pokemon game, and while some of the examples I felt were unfair, some of them were, okay, I think that's how you're supposed to read it. While some of the examples I felt were fair, some of them were night and day. I'm assuming that was what was meant to be said. But, yeah, there are certainly fair comparisons. I think the biggest example I saw was Cinderace and Verdash, I think, were the two major points of comparison, and I think a lot of people made comparisons between Anubis and Lucario as well, although I do wonder about that one, because I think the defense that Palworld defenders have came up with for that one was, hey, they're both drawing from the same inspiration, with Anubis leaning very much into the Egyptian styling and Lucario having a bit less distance from that. So, although I guess Lucario would be more different from that, although I suspect still styled very differently. But either way,
seen this game get increasingly lower attention on social media. We have seen nobody be engaged with their trailers or with their social media posts.
So, I don't know if that's the best clip to use right there. Obligatory zoom in joke. Okay.
Have zero engagement with their trailer, even though they have 649,000 views right there and 44K likes right in front of you, Hon.
Okay, so I guess we need to get a point of comparison for this. Hang on, let me pull up my extra tabs. So I'm just gonna mute desktop audio so I can search YouTube real quick. Oops. I think that was on my main monitor. You did not need to see me hit Control S on a web page. All right. I have so many questions about my unscripted channels recommended. What the hell is that? Either way. Pokemon Legends ZA trailer. Huh, actually. They're more comparable than I realized. Huh. And this would have been the first look, right? Yeah, brand new look. Oh, latest trailer. So the original announcement, okay, 2x, but interesting. Comparatively speaking, okay, what about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet? Okay, that's more what I would expect. Okay. Yeah, that tracks. Okay, so Pokemon definitely is getting more media attention, though that's also because Pokemon is much more of a known quantity, relatively speaking. Although, can I find the original Palworld Early Access trailer? Oh, there's the Early Access launch trailer. Okay, so yeah, that tracks. Okay, so given the relative obscurity the Palworld would be coming from compared to Pokemon having all the media behind it, especially since a lot of people would have originally watched the Pokemon Presents as well if they were the hardcore crowd. Yeah, that tracks. I don't see there being too much of a difference as far as the social media attention between the two. I mean, a lot of the difference can be accounted by the fact that Pokemon is an established franchise compared to Palworld being an unknown that got virality online, so yeah, I don't see the problem here. Yeah, that's what I meant, sorry for the confusion. Yeah, not a problem. Also, don't insult Jar Jar Binks like that. I mean, patents did get thrown out, but because they were. I mean, there is a degree to which you wonder about that. And to be fair, I mean, what was it? I remember Game Freak released a game, but that was more realistic, but that got middling reviews. So one could argue that Game Freak is just a mediocre game company to begin with that's been able to exist off the coattails of Pokemon for a long time. But that's neither here nor there. What was the... Hang on, I need to find the name. What was it called? Game Freak's latest... You know what? Beast of Reincarnation, that's it. Okay. I remember it getting middling reviews, though. Although, actually, what's the Steam store say? Mixed. Lovely. Okay, hang on. Mixed. Okay. Oh, jeez. A recommended review. It does so many things right, but also so many things wrong. Well then. I can't hear audio from the video for some reason. Oh, shoot. I never re-enabled desktop audio. My apologies, boys. So, let's see. How long was audio dead for? Let's go back to here.
It showed she was actually a woman. So guess what, Harmon? You're the tourist here, not us.
This should
We
be a
have
good place to
seen
continue.
this game get increasingly lower attention on social media. We have seen nobody be engaged with their trailers or with their social media posts.
Okay, so this looks so this looks about the point where I probably shut off desktop audio so I could start looking through YouTube. Okay, so this is about where we were.
Have
Cool.
zero engagement with their trailer, even though they have 649,000 views right there and 44K likes right in front of you, Harmon. Are you stupid or are you Jar Jar Binks? Because I'm starting to think you're a little like, I don't know, maybe a mix of both.
They tried riling up controversy. They tried getting patents thrown out.
Wait, I like the implication of that line. Are you Jar Jar Binks or are you stupid? I mean, implying that Jar Jar... Are we implying that Jar Jar isn't stupid?
They tried people getting invested. They tried emotionally manipulating people into thinking the small independent company was getting bullied by Nintendo because, they were scared of our product.
Harmon,
I mean, yes.
if they don't appeal the decision, they're going to lose these patents. Do you understand that? That's a huge blow to Nintendo, who's an absolute control freak. On top of that, too, yes, you saw a bigger company going after another company that was doing better within what Nintendo or Game Freak could do in their freaking lifetime.
Okay, and that's how we got on the Game Freak tangent. Alright, I think we're all caught up to where we were. Cool. Sorry about that technical issue on my side. I am very intelligent and very good at my job. Thankfully, this is only my hobby.
With their monster capturing game. So guess what? Yes, Nintendo is a scared little schoolgirl because she can't handle the new girl on block that's actually doing things a lot better than she could in a million kajillion freaking years.
It seems as if they were completely unprepared for the legal reality of what they did. They did not respond to Nintendo's legal prosecution as they should have.
As they should have. We're gonna listen to a dude that lives in his mother's basement.
I mean, do we know that for certain? I mean, we could say that for Synthetic Man at one point. Could we say that for Harmon?
Or God knows where you freaking live.
Okay, fair enough.
To be completely honest. And we're gonna
probably for the best that we don't know, to be fair.
Listen to, you that has zero experience in the judicial system and lawsuits.
To be fair, it's not like any of us have a lot of experience in this matter either, but still. Obligatory don't throw stones in glass houses as always. Oh, did I post the announcement in my main instead of announcements? Oops. Well, I'm smart. Okay. Game Freak doesn't want you to see this video? Oh boy. I'll have to check that out at some point. What is this? Sorry, getting distracted by IRL stuff. Okay, back to where we were.
Like, you haven't even read a report on lawsuits. Because if you did, you would have actually seen this actually happening from a mile away. But hey, Harmon actually doing research? Yeah, that's when hell freezes over and pigs start to fly.
And that's going to be...
Well, I mean, we've got Palworld right there. Don't freaking test them. They probably will create a flying pig just out of pure hilarity now.
Very apparent. Once they get to court and Nintendo starts breaking down everything that this company did to...
They've been in court for a couple of years, well, for a year and a half now. What are you talking about?
Damage their brand, like how they crossed the line, how they disrespected them, and how they did everything they possibly could to make themselves look like the good guy.
Hang on a minute, did you just manually reset? Hang on, can I see
how they did everything they possibly could to make them...
You didn't use a spacebar to... You could have used a spacebar instead of just your mouse, right? What even is this recording? What, is it so hard to just use a YouTube downloader? Basic shit!
Themselves look like the good guy in this situation.
Harmon
Smith can't be Jar Jar. He's nowhere near the level of genius and mastermind who brought the Sith to power. This sounds like a Darths and Droids skit. Go look that up. Very old webcomic.
They've already done this. Where have you been? Have you not been paying attention to the lawsuit at all?
Apparently not.
Have you been not looking at the public documentations that has been provided to everybody? No, of course not. You just sat there, pick your nose, and then tasted it, and then go for your belly lint and your little belly button over there, ate it and stirred it up, and you...
Okay, calm down.
Then you're gonna win. You're gonna win.
Okay, calm down. I get wanting to make fun of him. There is amusement to be had there, but calm down.
Like, dude, seriously, pop open a public public lawsuit once in a while and see how that shit ended with its like lawsuit. Like, oh my god, I'm actually fucking up on my words right now because I'm
Yeah, you probably should have retaken this.
actually frustrated with how stupid he is.
And there was an initial wave of hype and enthusiasm. You know, when Power Farm was first announced, you know, everybody just agreed that it would be way better than Pokopia, just because.
Pokopia, you fake fan alert.
It was Palworld.
Where's a triangle when you need it? The one I can go get my tambourine from downstairs. It's not quite the same thing, though, is it? I'll laugh at Palworld as a child skeleton with a red hat as an Easter egg. Oh boy.
But
No, not because it was better than Pokopia, whatever you're freaking saying in this, to be completely honest. No, it's at the fact that it looks better than Pokopia.
Pokopia. Why am I getting triggered on the pronunciation of this? What the game had been out for a couple of months by this point. What the hell, guys?
Literally, I have played Pokopia on live streams here directly on this channel, and I'm telling you something. If that trailer that they showed the gameplay of the characters and everything that is intertwining with their world, it is going to be 1,000 times better than Pokopia.
Now, to be fair, that is all speculation right now. I have not played Pokopia myself. Since that I'll be starting a new job within about a week, well, in a little over a week, I should be able to spend time with that eventually, though it's going to be a while yet because first it was layoff, though it's going to be Fortune's Weave around the corner, and that's going to be my main time sink in it once the mid-September rolls around. But we'll see what turns out.
Because
Although we don't have an explicit release date on Power Farm yet anyway, so we just have what's currently present. So hopefully it ends up being good.
Pokopia is an absolute joke. Like,
I've heard a lot of good things about it, but I'm not the one to talk about this, I suppose.
seriously, who gives all the water Pokemon Texan accents?
Okay, that is arguably a localization thing more so than anything else. So, the way I understand it is that within the game, within the original Japanese, they had set the character dialogue for characters like Kyogre to where it was meant to be the kindly old man, as it were, or the gentle giant, as it were, more so than the aura farmer that we know and love Kyogre as. So that is my understanding of it. But the problem is that the specific accent that was used is oftentimes in localization associated with a southern accent, and so that led to all sorts of hilarious clips where people were going crazy about Kyogre not just aura farming and instead speaking with a Texan accent, which amusement to be had there. Localization fluke more so than anything else. There's a Blade in Xenoblade 2 that speaks with a southern accent for the same reason, because I believe in the original Japanese she speaks with a Kansai accent. So, well, Kansai dialect, I think it is exactly. So, one could argue that's localization more so than it is Pokemon specifically. So, that one I wouldn't agree with. Dr. J, Pokopia stream when? Whenever I make time for it. It might make sense as a one-off at some point, though I'm going to be pretty busy over the next few weeks. I've already been busy enough, but I'll have plenty to say on that towards the end.
I'm not joking. Go look it up yourself. Like, go look up the Kyogre section.
Yes, I've seen some of those clips. That was, I think, the first clip of Pokopia I saw on Twitter around the time the game was released. Hang on, let's see if I can find it. Let me pull this app browser back up. I'm gonna mute desktop audio again. Let me know if I forget to unmute it. Let's see if I can find it. Copia Kyogre. Let's see. There was a really funny clip I saw of a VTuber getting very upset about it, and I'm sure... Is this it? No, this ain't it. Come on. I'm never gonna find that clip, am I? Okay, I think I found it. Nope, that ain't it. Oh, come on. Where is it? Come on, where is it? Okay, I'm just wasting time here. Either way, there was a really funny clip. So I guess all that to say, there was a very funny clip of a VTuber getting very upset over Kyogre having a southern accent, and it was very funny, and I can't find it. I am sorry.
You're just
I didn't know I would need it, damn it.
Just shake your head and just want to stop.
Over time, it became apparent that like these products weren't going to amount to much. You know, Palworld TCG is never, ever, ever going to compete with the Pokemon TCG for a
No, most likely not. I don't think anything would be as big as that. Although I'd be curious to know the exact reasoning for it, because doing a little bit more looking in since the Palworld response video I put out, at least based on the comments I've read, as well as some of the research I've done into it, it seems that the biggest issue, and the reason why there's scalping and all sorts of other fun stuff, is that people are effectively treating it as collector's items rather than as a game. And I think that's where a lot of this is coming from, where people are looking for the rare Charizard or the rare Mewtwo or the rare whatever the hell, rather than getting the cards for the sake of the game itself. So, either way, I suspect that may end up being more so the reason for the Pokemon TCG success. Less so people playing it, more so people collecting. How much that's going to apply to Palworld, hard to say at this point. I never played a Pokemon game in my life besides Pokemon Go, if that counts. I'd count it. It's tangential. Though I did watch the anime as a kid, which I thought was okay, though I mainly liked it for a specific episode with Jessie. Oh boy. I'm not gonna ask. Dr. J VTubing when? Honestly, I mean, I have game dev ambitions. You're more likely to see my face than me as a VTuber avatar when that time comes.
A whole host of reasons.
You mean Pokemon's manipulative tactics that they've been using for the whole years? Of course they're not going to match up to the same pace with that. Because you know what? At least this company's not going to be a bunch of scumbags like Nintendo, the Pokemon Company, and Game Freak over here using manipulative tactics in order to sell their products. Like, just a picture it for a second. Imagine you have to use manipulative tactics in order to sell your own products. Hey,
can you describe those manipulative tactics? Because I know that there's the whole have two different versions of the game to where people are more compelled to buy it, that and maybe an extra switch while they're at it, but you can argue that that's also a matter of, hey, compel people to actually meet each other and build community around it, which you could argue there's a manipulative aspect of it to an extent, but I don't know if I would go so far as to say that it is explicitly manipulative. Unless you mean, hey, get all this for collector's items, and you mean the whole open a pack and get a bunch of guff instead of just buying the card that you want, which, fair enough in that count, though sadly Pokemon are not an isolated incident when it comes to that sort of thing.
You see your cute little Pokemon in your next trailer right here? Come on, come buy our next game and you can come play with your next, like your favorite Pokemon over here. Yeah, guess what? Palworld doesn't even have to do that type of thing. Get the fuck out of here.
And
Well, we'll see
now
what they do with the
it's
next
starting to
game,
look
right?
like Pal Farm is never actually going to come out. We haven't heard a thing about it since it was.
To be fair, we haven't heard much about it since its release. They arguably announced it way too soon. That is a fair critique.
Unveiled. And now, out of nowhere, just a couple of months before the final court ruling, Palworld has confirmed that Palworld 1.0 is releasing in July.
Oh, so you mean we're actually getting a release and it, where it's not a scam because it's actually releasing? Well, you don't say. Don't you mean JTuber?
Harmon, that's because, and guess what, Harmon?
Huh, that's what happens when you try and use the grappling hook on a PAL? Fair enough. I wonder if they changed that.
They're focusing on Palworld 1.0 like they said they were. Do you not pay attention to what they're saying? No, of course
Why did you just randomly kill the Katsuba?
not. Because if it's not a big red flavoring type of candy that's constantly going in and out inside of your own mouth, you're not
going
to pay attention to it, aren't you?
That this was a game that outperformed Pokemon was
were you about to say Pokemon? Really?
Because Jeff Keighley said it.
If that
I mean, Jeff Keighley says a lot of things. What's your point?
that was the case, Highguard would still be alive right now, Harmon.
Exactly.
Do you not pay attention to the words that come out of your own damn mouth?
I could argue you could be tarred with that same brush to an extent, given that you seem to be speaking off the cuff too, but I'm going to keep that to my... Well, I obviously haven't kept it to myself, but you know what? Be careful what you say.
No, you know whose success we have to say thank you to for Palworld? It's the Nintendo fanboys. And you, Harmon, with...
To be fair, you would end up getting a lot of people who would go, oh man, you guys are complaining a lot about this. What the hell is this all about? So I'm going to check this out, and oh, this is actually fun. This is a nice survival game. Arguably, it is the gateway drug to survival games with how easy it is to get into. So, curious to see how things turn out, right? Look how the turntables. Pokemon. What alternative universe did Armon fall out of? The one where they say Bernstein Bears, right?
With you constantly talking about how bad the game is and you not showing gameplay and constantly running your mouth about it, you've given them essentially the best advertisement that they could ever ask for. Congratulations, Harmon. You're the reason why Nintendo lost $40 million in the court cases.
Well, I don't know if Pocket Pair, now I'm doing it. I don't know if Pocket Pair would have to pay attorney's fees if they lost, but I suppose time will tell.
The issue, and I think this is very apparent, is that even the people who were like shilling hard for Palworld had their fill of it like a couple of years ago.
I mean, I had my fill of the early access version about 35 hours into it, and with the release, I've been spending something like... Actually, let me just pull up Steam. Actually, let me mute this real quick, just in case this pulls up something odd, because I've got my desktop set up in a particular way, so let me make sure that I'm not causing problems. Have I really not opened up Steam today? How'd that happen? Yes, I have almost 133 hours logged since then, so I have put in almost 100 hours. I may have already put in 100 hours into 1.0 since its release, so yeah. I was just waiting for it to be fully released. I got my fill of early access, figured, okay, wait till the rest of it's out. The rest of it came out within an hour and a half, new stuff. I'm happy.
Okay, most people played the early access phase of the game and dropped it pretty quickly after that.
Because it's early access. Although you didn't even know that Steam properly existed before Palworld came out, most likely, so I guess you wouldn't know about that, but that is the trend with early access games, believe it or not, where you have the diehard crowd who will stick around and keep playing it. You'll have the clingers, will have people who check it out because they see it on sale, even while early access. You'll have the initial hype wave, and then you'll have a lot of people who realize, okay, early access games don't always finish, let's hold off. And then they came back and have had a fun time. What's your point?
Or maybe, here's a little foreign concept right here. Maybe we played everything that was available to us, and we said, you know what? They're going to be working on 1.0. I want them to go ahead and just make 1.0, and then finally update it, and then I'm going to jump on Palworld and continue playing the game.
Pretty much.
Harmon, you don't think at all. You just run your fucking mouth because you think you know everything.
And to be fair, he, well, as said before, he claimed in the video I responded to, Steam is never going to be a thing, which, dumb statement to make. So, let's see. When I type Bocopia, it assume I'm saying it wrong? Oh boy.
Because if that's the case, then Princess Peach Showtime, Mario Kart World, and the many other games that you enjoy, well, they're pretty much failures because, well, nobody's talking about them, nobody's playing them. See how stupid that sounds?
And you're getting less than 1 million views on that trailer for this major announcement. You know you have a problem.
So let me get this straight.
So if we play by those
What was that clip from?
rules, are we calling sports resorts over here an absolute failure then?
Okay, yeah, that's a good comparison to make, although we've already done the direct one-to-one with Pokemon games, so we'll leave that at there.
Harmon, because, you know, we're playing by your rules because since they're under, you know, 1 million views over here. Oh, are we going to call the next Xenoblade Saga over here, like the Genesis over here?
To be fair, Xenoblade being a JRPG is more niche. The fact that you get 2 to 3 million for one of those games, and that is considered a rousing success, but still.
Are we going to call this one a failure too?
Currently, you're seeing a lot of Cope articles online, you know, saying that Nintendo's going to win the lawsuit, but they're only going to get $30,000 or...
Wait, which Cope articles, huh? What do you mean Cope? Cope for what?
Like, that doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter? Harmon, they spent $40 million on this lawsuit. On top of that, too.
So the development cost of a Pokemon game, from what we've heard, literally... Hang on. Let me just confirm that real quick, because I remember hearing something about that. Okay, hang on. Let me confirm that before I just start mouthing off. Cost to develop Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Okay, hang on. Hold up. And it looks like my cat has something to say. Where is it? Find it eventually. So the Pokemon Company decides the budget for Pokemon game. No, nope, that's not it. Alright, rumor. So this is rumor. Development budgets for Pokemon Switch games leaked. So let's see. So that's the terms in Japanese yen. So that can't be right. Okay, something's got to be off with the math there. Yes, something is off with the math. Okay. Whoops. Here we are. Okay, so... Alright, so here's what I'm looking at. So, this is just a random article I found talking through this. I saw the numbers in a couple different places. So, I took the number for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So, this is about 3 billion yen. Put that in to see what that looks like in USD. 40 million spent on the patent suit. Convert that back to yen. They've literally spent more suing Pocket Pair than they have making Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. If those numbers are accurate. Because we've also got this, which would add another 15 million, roughly speaking. Well, 10, 15 million. Yeah. This is why they're being made fun of. They could have made an entirely different Pokemon game. If those numbers are accurate, to be clear. They could have with the time they were spending suing Pocket Pair, they could have literally made an entire new Pokemon generation. Granted, time differential you have to consider as well. But. Seems a bit ridiculous on the surface, doesn't it?
They're on the verge of losing patents that they used in this lawsuit. Do you understand that? Do you understand how devastating that is for Nintendo? Not just because they lost 40 million. No, they're probably going to take that out of you guys with a price increase to their games. And
no, they're going to do... Well, they'd do the price increases anyway, given that they'd have the excuse of hardware and all sorts of... and inflation and all the other usual arguments for why.
Their systems. But no, it is more devastating for them than to lose 40 million. Because those patents... Oh, that's control. That's control over the gaming industry right there. That they could use as a big mallet over everybody's head. It's like, don't you copy this. Don't you copy this. We're going to sue you. But since now it's out of their greedy little hands, well, Nintendo's going to hurt.
Address the concern.
Well, I suppose it depends on if anyone can properly take advantage of it. That'll be the real question, won't it? Hopefully there'll be a lot more companies like Pocket Bear who are able to come up with something clever based on that. I mean, we've seen a lot of good games from picking up the slack where Nintendo hasn't been willing to, or as interested in putting up the same effort. I mean, Wargroove did pretty well. To my knowledge, recouped its development costs pretty quickly. You've got stuff like Palworld coming along and doing quite well as well, so we'll see what happens. Even with Nintendo, you see the you see the AA's and indies coming along and saying, I want to try a spin on that, and doing quite well, so we'll see how it goes.
Concerns that the community had about their product and about what they were offering people and about like the legality of it all, but they just kind of like...
Now, when you mean by the community, do you mean the Nintendo fanboy community? The ones that absolutely lost their minds over Palworld for no good reason? Well, yeah, I can understand why they don't want to answer some ravenous fucking feline fucking rabied infested fucking fan base over there, because it's not healthy at all. You guys were degrading these people, calling them thieves and everything, even though it was obvious they weren't stealing anything. Of course they're not going to answer you people. You people are fucking disgusting.
Okay, calm down. Jeez, you've been in the trenches on this, damn. Of the rage putting in work on your title. Of your name.
Making a product that people actually wanted, they focused all of their efforts on like making it as deliberately controversial as possible.
Harmon, this is exactly what the next step of Pokemon should have gone, right after Legends of Arceus, or Arceus, I know.
Well, they've been trying to move it to Arceus so that we don't have Scottish people going, I'm gonna kick you at Arceus, but no, it's Arceus. As recently as the Detective Pikachu movie, it was Arceus. And that was 2019.
No, I know I'm gonna get flamed in the comment section for that.
No, call him Arceus. No. Let them flame you. Let them be dumb. Call him Arceus.
But you guys know what I'm saying.
That was the original pronunciation. It was used as recently as Detective Pikachu. Hold them to it. Mostly because it's funny.
In the discussion, we wanted that exact evolution to happen for Pokemon. Because if we got a Pokemon game just like Palworld over here, I don't think a lot of people would have complained. Matter of fact, I think Pokemon, like if they went down this way and they hired these developers to make the next Pokemon, oh, I'm pretty sure that game would have sold like game busters on top of like selling hardware. But
I don't know about that necessarily, because you do have all of the other external pressures in place where you have to worry about the Pokemon Company as an independent entity. To an extent, anyway. You've got Nintendo involved, where they have their expectations. You've got all the marketing that has to come into play. You've got Game Freak, who has their own ideas as to what they want to do as well. So, yeah, I don't know if throwing Pocket Pair into that same environment would necessarily lead to much different. But it's hard to say for certain.
But hey, we're not in that time.
I'm not sure if they would have necessarily been able to be as spicy with some of the designs and with having the adorable critters wielding guns. It has been a long time since there was a gun in the anime, let's just say.
Timeline now, aren't we? No, we're in the timeline where Nintendo's taking L after L after.
Was the Detective Pikachu movie any good? Barely anyone talked about it. So, the way I describe it is that, thinking back on it, the third act falls apart logically speaking to an extent, but character-wise, it is quite entertaining. The Mr. Mime scene is a highlight. The character writing buoys it up pretty well. So, I think it is an enjoyable, fun movie. I think that's the best way to describe it. Given and the fact that the Pokemon were able to be translated to live action and actually look decent, that alone is worthy of commendation, where it doesn't matter whether it's a giant Pokemon like Pidgeot, it doesn't matter if it's if it's a smaller Pokemon like Bulbasaur, they make it work. They make it work really well. They translate it pretty well to live action. I wanted a Bulbasaur plushie after I saw what they did with him in Detective Pikachu. It's really good. Visually, stellar. Story-wise, falls apart a bit, decent amounts in Act 3, especially once you learn the main bad guy's motivation. And with the fact that, hey, how did Pikachu get over here so quickly? But apart from stuff like that, character works good. There's a lot of individually good scenes like the Mr. Mime one. Honestly, I've got a copy of the DVD. It's quite nice. Some Pokemon IRL need to go. Yeah, they were even able to exploit some hilarity with respect to how the Pokemon look with Ditto. Make something that looks really creepy. Intentionally so. So, this video was made by Wrath and Passion, presumably talking about Gara of the Rage's video? Yeah, pretty much. Hopefully there won't be half-baked clones made with Unity using these ideas to make it fail. Well, the patents have potential. Well, we'll see what happens. Although, we were already... I think a game journalist an old-school gaming outlet accidentally got skewered by Twitter's community notes by accidentally using a screenshot from one of the rip-offs of Palworld when talking about Palworld, but never mind that. I can't remember exactly where it was, so don't quote me on that.
L.
The important thing was addressing the fact that this game is nothing but a ripoff, going through the court system.
But they only focused on the patents and not character design. They're not suing on IP or copyright, they're suing on patents. We've been over this before. I should not repeat too much. Gara's gonna get us on this too.
Addressing this stuff,
They've all been addressed, Harmon. Keep up with the times, old man. I know it's really hard to read and to understand, but it's really not that hard.
No, you need to baby voice that some more. I know it's hard to read. I know it's hard to comprehend. Come on, yeah. Add a bit of a lisp in there too, just to really sell it.
To apply yourself. Trust me, we're well over that whole discussion right now.
Furthering their methods of protecting their brand from companies like this and preventing things like this from happening in the future.
You know what's funny though, Harmon? Because I don't think you realize this yet. Because here's the shit kicker on this one, and that you haven't realized at all in this situation. Did you actually know court systems actually use another judge's, decision in a same previous court, the same case that they have right there? You do understand that, right? So say another company wants to make their own Palworld, right? And then Nintendo decides to go sue them. Well, guess what's going to happen?
Precedent, yeah, all right.
That same judge is going to look at the same case right here and then compare it to the other case over there. And, well, guess we're going to give Nintendo another L on that one if they decide to go that pathway again.
Yep, we'll see what kind of precedent ends up being set by the lawsuit regardless. Some Pokemon IRL need to go, such as Lickitung, to be fair, yeah. I just made a mean grilled cheese, now I need some milk. No. Don't you already have plenty of dairy? Whatever.
Because at the end of the day, in spite of all the hype and all the worship that Palworld got in the community,
oh, so it actually is getting hyped up. Interesting.
It did not leave much of an impression on actual players.
Harmon, just do us all a favor with these bad takes of yours and just stop. Stop making videos.
No, this is endlessly entertaining. I want to watch the monkey dance. Well, game journalist in this case. He's not actually a game journalist. I'm pretty sure that was obvious given the circumstances, especially with what we'll be discussing in a few minutes, but well, here we are.
And go back to clipping Kino Casino, okay? Please.
I did hear about this in the comments, so here's something fascinating. An interesting facet of this guy's tale. So, one of the big dramas that's happened over the course of this year has been a controversy of false flagging, where a channel called the Kino Casino had a clips channel that they used to post a bunch of stuff and were really ragging on a channel called The Quartering. And over the course of that, false flags were had, the Kino Casino's clip channel was taken down, which didn't really affect them. Most of their income was coming through Kick, so all it affected was their editor's livelihood, which still sucks. They still had to course correct in order to make sure he could pay the bills, but all that to say, all sorts of fun had there. And in the wake of that happening, you naturally have a lot of people who are seeing the opportunity and thinking, okay, well, we already have a large ecosystem where even if a streamer isn't necessarily able to clip everything they're doing, and usually can't, to be fair, given the amount that streamers can spend on a given day, just constantly churning out stuff, you have a cottage industry of sorts just trying to find clips of streamers and whatnot. And with the controversy happening, I believe Kino Casino basically gave carte blanche for anyone to come in and say, hey, go ahead and clip everything out. You can do straight rips even. I can't remember the exact specifics or what stipulations were in place as to how much could be clipped out or how much they could just do straight re-uploads of streams. But all that to say, people went wild, and Harmon Smith ended up being one of those people who went utterly insane just trying to post clips. And that on its own wouldn't necessarily be an issue, because if something is trying to be suppressed and does not explicitly break the terms of service, then yeah, saturation effect, just toss it all out there and see what sticks. Make sure that it actually can be preserved for the record, as it were. So, in that sense, it's perfectly fine. What annoyed people about Harmon specifically is that he was posting it not on a separate channel where it could exist as its own entity, but was posting it on main. And so you go over to Harmon's channel right now, you will still find a large playlist of Kino Casino re-uploads, where one could argue that he's trying to bolster his own YouTube algorithm, his own channel, by posting someone else's shit. And that's also where some of the accusations that we discussed in the Palworld response video I made came up, where he had made accusations against Furtonga Plays of effectively saying, hey, you should mass report this guy, where it was in relation to that, where arguably, I don't know the full circumstances, so don't quote me on any of this. The way I understand it, Furtonga basically said, hey, you know that doing stuff like this could easily get you reported and shut down, right? Because this technically isn't yours, but you're posting it on a channel where you do your own stuff as well. This doesn't seem wise. That's the most charitable way that I can frame it, but depending on how it's framed, that, hey, people could go after you for stolen content, or whether he explicitly said, hey, go after him for stolen content, the fact of the matter is that it's arguably not a good thing that Furtonga did, because all you have to do is point and laugh and say, oh, your own content is doing so well, you have to go and run off with these two Canadians' content instead? Really? And that's all he really had to do in that respect. Though, again, I don't know the full story on that piece specifically, but you go to his channel now, there's a bunch of Kino Casino clips that are just randomly there amongst his usual ramblings, so funny how the world ends up spinning, huh? So, although, no, I want him to post more bullshit like this. This is endlessly entertaining.
Please go do that, because you could definitely put the clips in the bag.
If your entire brand is built on this idea that it's a better version of another brand, or that it's like some darker, more mature take, or your entire community is like revolves around hating its primary competition.
Don't project your propensity towards Palworld onto the rest of us, please.
Or the game that it ripped off, like you're essentially doomed to failure.
A failure? Harmon.
Oh, you're already bringing up the doomed to failure line? How fascinating. Fascinating.
This game has sold 25 million plus copies, okay? 25 million plus copies.
To be clear, that was speculation based on third-party analytics, but not an unreasonable assumption to make given the player numbers that they've seen, as well as similar player counts versus sales that we are aware of, such as Baldur's Gate 3, which I had mentioned in my own video.
And it has been recorded too that there has been 32 million unique players, meaning that these are new people that entered the ecosystem of Palworld.
But not necessarily play, to be clear. Well, not necessarily pay, at least explicitly. Though, to be fair, Pocket Pair would also get a decent check from having their game available on Game Pass. I just don't know how much they necessarily make from those deals.
32 million. I don't think that's a failure. That's what we call a success. And that's what we call Nintendo shitting bricks over here. And they're going to try to stop this thing before it becomes more popular than it could ever have happened in the first place.
I feel like that's a bit too conspiratorial, but we'll see.
And if anything, I think this proves that the ideas that people have for Pokemon, you know, the idea that it should be mature, that it should tackle adult subjects, that like you.
I mean, didn't they technically do that already with, what was the team name in the Unova region? Where they tried to have a team that was basically PETA in their own game? I feel like you could argue that there's plenty of more mature subjects that can and do come up either in the Pokédex or what have you. It's not as if there's nothing, well, given that they're aiming for a global audience, there's only so much you can do, but at the same time, you still have options and means by which you can explore this, so I do wonder about that.
You should be allowed to, like, I don't know, like, eat and, like, have sex with your Pokemon.
Okay, who's saying that? Oh, hang on, you're about to do a clip.
Excuse me, what?
Okay. Well-placed clip, well-placed clip. What, is that only coming up in Harmon's mind because of the April Fool's joke? Where they made a dating sim out of, what was it? Out of some of the pals? First it was a joke and then it was real. But still mostly a joke, even if it was real. Is that the only reason? Yeah, I mean, Rule 34 exists, but counterpoint, Gardevoir. No. Counterpoint, Vaporeon.
Nobody is asking to bend over a Pokemon and go to town on them, Harm.
And if there are, those people are weird, and we don't like them.
And we're asking for more mature, like, Pokemon games to come out. We're not.
Well, let me put it this way. Attend to the lore of Cubone and tell me that Pokemon is incapable of tackling serious subject matter. At least, come on, you can tackle something serious in that respect. That's what is meant.
I'm not saying take the mainline franchise and just crank it up to a mature level. No, what we're asking for is to have a spin-off.
Yeah, we're not asking for it to be turned into a Netflix cartoon. We're asking for it to change things up every now and then. Be willing to tell a more serious story.
That is a little more mature, kind of like Pokemon Coliseum, you know, those type of games.
I should check that out at some point. It is on Nintendo Switch Online, right?
Like, we would have a little more maturity to them, like, I don't know, growing with your fan base. You know, the ones that are in their 30s and 40s that have stayed with Pokemon for the longest time. Jesus fuck, Harmon. And you know what, though, Harmon? I wish they did a more, like, mature Pokemon game. I wish they would allow you to date, like, the Pokemon trainers. And you know who...
Actually, if you use that as an opportunity to expand the world-building aspect, was that a missed opportunity with Legends Arceus? Maybe. Team Plasma, that's it. Thank you, Greg.
Who the one I would go after, Harmon? I would go after Cynthia and just make it like an open world. You could have like an affectionate dating game with like the older characters. That would be really awesome.
I'm not sure how well that would fit into the core gameplay loop, to be fair, but if you were to engage in... Well, actually, if you followed Looker around, given that he shows up in both Gens 4 and 6. Didn't Gen 5 have a dating system or just one person? Although, the issue that you run into with the mainline Pokemon games is that usually the characters are underage. So, you can't... There's a limit to how far you can go with respect to stuff like that. You would need to have explicitly adult characters for that sort of subject to be more palatable, broadly speaking. But because the fan base is primarily geared toward children, well, here we are. Also, on the topic of seriousness in Pokemon, one of the game's main villains, Lucamine, was literally an abusive mother. Oh boy. I'd like to think Jessie would only have a specific version of her. Oh boy. Do I even want... You know what? I don't want to know. So, they would have to shake things up with respect to their focus in that light, but I don't see why you couldn't have a spin-off game where you're solving mysteries with Looker or something like that. Maybe using that as an opportunity to get to know Emma better, more explicitly than what we have in Legends ZA, where you're just running around largely independently of Emma and just solving random problems with side quests. Having her more explicitly involved in tracking down leads and actually solving legitimate mysteries rather than just a bunch of miscellaneous quests. So stuff like that, and then potentially building a relationship beyond just partners in crime, as it were. I could see that being fascinating, even if it's not explicitly those characters. Although I'm pretty sure Emma is an adult by the time Legends ZA rolls around, so, You just have to age up the protagonist of Legends ZA and you could have had an interesting subplot there, huh? Interesting. Or depending on what they did with Tawny and Urbane, I guess, but either way. There is fertile ground that they could work with, though the question is, is that something that that they could reasonably fit in alongside the core gameplay loop they have in mind? So I guess that would be the thing to be worth exploring in that sense. Well, be worth considering in that sense.
It really would be, but hey, we all know how much pussified Nintendo is.
Pokemon is...
calm down. Parts of Nintendo, if you're going to make that argument, but either way. There are definitely instances where they focus on appealing to a wider audience and it doesn't necessarily work out. See Fire Emblem Engage. But, counterpoint, kill every last one of them.
As popular as it is, because it's made in...
Also, that Tarantulas image gets me every time.
An organic, original world that offers thousands of hours of enjoyment for its players.
Thousands of hours for enjoyment? 1,000 hours? No, not a chance in hell. On top of that, you're just confirming that the Pokemon games are just meant for children. Hell, the developers, the current one that are working on Pokemon right now would actually agree with you, because these games are designed for fucking children. So gee, I wonder why...
And that's not even necessarily a bad thing, though it does mean for people who are growing up with the franchise, you would hope that there'd be more to worry about outside of digging into something hyper-competitive like the mainline competitive scene.
People that really enjoy Pokemon, which are the older generation, the OGs over here, are asking for something that's more mature, something that they could dive into. Because if you read some of the comics, some of the manga on Pokemon,
yeah, some of that could get dark. Apparently the ending for the Kalos arc ended up being very different from how the Kalos games ended, to a fascinating degree. At some point I'll have to read the whole Adventures manga and give proper thoughts on it.
They make the anime and the games look like a joke.
Well, I'm not going to comment too much on the anime since it's been a while, although I do remember in old school anime that you would go to a small town and literally have guns drawn on Ash, but that was a different time. 'Twas a different time. Wanting to be the champion because his daughter thought it would be cool. Yeah, sure. This dating talk reminded me that Pocket Bear is actually making a Palworld dating game, in that you can date Saya and Zoe as well as pals who are anthropomorphized. Yes, that's what I was thinking of, because first it was an April Fool's joke, then it was real, but still kind of a joke. I don't know what the current status of it is. I only got 30 hours on Sword and Shield, and I beat the game around the 20-hour mark. That sounds about accurate. I think that's equivalent to mine, although I think I spent a little longer than that with it.
Something being more adult doesn't necessarily make it better, and
that is true.
I think Palworld demonstrates that concept very, very well.
How so, though?
Palworld isn't the adult version of Pokemon. It's not even like Pokemon. If you look at the surface level, yeah, you would probably think, oh, this is just Pokemon with blickies over here. No, it is so much more than just Pokemon with blickies, because...
Why are you using that? You know what? Fine, go ahead.
You know what? This game has been absolute a pleasure to watch it absolutely evolve and absolutely own Nintendo and engulf it like the plebs that Nintendo is. And you know what, fam? I'm done dealing with this aardvark over here. I'm absolutely done. I cannot.
I like how the subtitles put aardvark instead of presumably Ardavark. I wonder how they'll turn up on this stream.
Stand Harmon. And there's a reason why I haven't...
Then why do you keep covering him? Just leave him to me. I just have fun with this.
...covered Harmon, because you know what? He's too easy. He is...
Okay, that is fair.
...just like the stupid of the stupid.
Yeah, and sometimes you do need that just to say, alright, you know what? We've had our fun. We've had this deep intellectual conversation about a particular subject. Now what's this bastard talking about? I almost said a very different word that might have gotten me canceled in some circles. Okay.
Cream of the crumb over here. Like,
Was that an intentional misspeak? Because cream of the crumb is brilliant. And I don't know if it's intentional or not. If it's intentional, well freaking played. If it's not, that's still really awesome.
I swear.
I'm gonna steal that line. Cream of the crumb. Oh, that is glorious.
Swear to God, every time I listen to this dude, I feel my brain cells want him to commit senpaku over here.
I mean, I enjoy listening to it because it's just so absurd it loops back around to being hilarious. But at the same time, there's only so much that you can listen to it before it would arguably get repetitive. It's not like it's a subject that you can plumb the depths on endlessly. It is very much the popcorn of media takes on YouTube, where you look in, you see something that's just so ridiculous you can't help but laugh, and then you say, alright, that was fun, moving on. Which is probably why Harmon doesn't get a lot of attention, largely speaking.
Because it's so...
Heck, the fact that my video is doing so well compared to this one, given that I didn't rely on the name, I just said, oh, I focused the SEO purely on the world's dumbest or funniest Palworld hater, depending on how the A/B testing worked out, and just left it at that, and people familiar with the topic already knew, oh, is this Harmon? Yes, it's Harmon. So, the fact that his name alone doesn't necessarily garner you all that much attention, because oh, is this guy? Okay, fine, I'll listen in, fine. But I do wonder about that, but either way, who knows? We'll see what happens next. I did see one comment on my video speculating that, oh, there's no way he's going to let this go. He's going to try and respond back somehow, and there's a part of me that almost wants to see what would happen if that did occur, but at the same time, we'll see what happens. I'm not too worried.
Oh, freaking dumb. And you know what? If you want to help me recover from losing brain cells on this one,
like, comment, and subscribe.
Please leave a like and comment in the comment section. Always a pleasure to talk to you guys. And hey, you know what? If you want to talk to me in the comment section, well, I'll talk to you in the comment section, because I always look at the comment section. And hey, you know what? You like my craziness? You like what I bring to the table? Well, subscribe to the channel, because I'll definitely bring more for you guys. And hey, on top of that too, later on today, after this video gets posted, I will be on Salt Shakers, and we will be playing Mario Superstars, or whatever the heck it's called, basically. I got invited on there to go play some Superstars. But anyway, guys, like I always say, thank you very much for coming along and just listening to this mad ranting about how power is going to fail. It's absolutely insane. So, but anyway, fam, thank you very much for listening. I truly do appreciate it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Later, fam.
Alright, so very much more so just pure unadulterated rambling, so definitely an audience for that. Not quite to my personal taste, since that there's a degree of tribalism that's propping up with respect to the Nintendo bashing, but still, given that, well, it's hard to mess up a take when you are, or look bad when you're going up against someone like Harmon, though, because of just how absurd the takes are. But either way, fun times abound. Fun times abound. What else is chat been up to? Pokemon Cartel or War Criminal? What's the context of that? And War Criminal? Oh boy. My favorite part of the Pokemon Gun episode is when Meowth puts on a mustache that resembles one worn by a certain... Wait, hang on, I don't remember that part. Hold up. I feel like you're trolling me. I don't remember that part. The brother's been trying to get me to record reaction videos to the original Pokemon episodes for a while now. I keep telling him that I won't until he finishes up the other stuff we've recorded together. Did I read? Well, no, I'm too busy anyway. I've got a lot that I want to try and see to in the next week, let alone once I have him back on stable ground with the job situation. So, no, not yet, not yet. Not yet. There will be time enough for it all. So, anything else I need to see to? I wish I was trolling. Also, it seems like one of my comments got censored. Well, let's see. If it did, I don't see any message retracted within the live chat. Usually that shows up on my side as message retracted, but fascinating. Well, either way. Let's see, is there anything else I need to see to before we move on to the next one? Nope, doesn't look it. Also, I posted a video going over censored Pokemon episodes in the React submission if you have any interest. Let's see. I think I know which video it is. I don't know if it's necessarily the... Oh, interesting. Because I think the J Wits put out one a long time ago, back in the olden days. It looks like this is a different one, so... Yes, there's all sorts of fun that can be had looking at some of the sillier incidents that Pokemans has gotten themselves up to. So, either way, fascinating history, depending on how far deep you want to go down the rabbit hole. But, either way, that will be all for that. So, now that we've spent a bit of time talking about Palworld, now that we've seen more of Harmon's bad takes on Palworld, another aspect of this that I wanted to explore was, well, I had mentioned Baldur's Gate 3 in my own video responding to him, about how, hey, even if you look at the large successes, there's quite a lot of variety here, where you've got a game like Palworld, which is very much a survival game, not necessarily heavily focused on story, though one that you can dig through as far as journal entries in order to learn more about, as well as have a main story you can or cannot interact with at your leisure. And then you've got stuff like Baldur's Gate 3, where it is a sandbox in a sense, but only insofar as you make it, well, but more so focusing the sandbox on the story, where you have all sorts of crazy things that can happen with respect to the decisions you make, with respect to the character you create, the responses you give when you take part in certain events. There's a lot of variety with respect to the outcomes, with respect to the events. I think my favorite video on the subject is by Maxor, where I posted my sources that I made it the fuck up clip from him when he was making a video on Metal Gear Rising. His videos are very much ADHD, the video, but his Baldur's Gate 3 one is really funny because it captures the essence of what makes that game hilarious in a lot of ways, where you can just do all sorts of crazy stuff with it. And so my thought was, hey, you want to see an example of a large success where there's all sorts of cool stuff involved that isn't attached to Palworld and therefore you would reflexively hate? Oh, come on, check it out, it's great. About that. About that. He doesn't like Baldur's Gate 3. He does not like Baldur's Gate 3 at all. At least that is the impression that I can assume based purely on this title, especially since when I went looking for Harmon Smith Baldur's Gate 3, I found a bunch of videos that had already been making fun of him before to where I had to go to his channel and explicitly look for stuff for Baldur's Gate 3, which included a bunch of random bullshit in shorts that honestly were only about 4 or 5 seconds and were summarized by the title and honestly were arguably useless. I didn't even watch them because of that. So, honestly, I'm sat here going, oh, fascinating. So, I had to see what was going on here, because there's a couple different angles that this guy might approach his disdain for Baldur's Gate 3. And so what I went to is what I think is the most likely point where he would talk about the game more so than anything around the game, such as the numbers, as might be discussed over here. My focus was just to see, okay, can we focus in on your opinion on the game itself? Because in my mind, there are 2 angles that I think make the most sense for him to try. One of them is because between Baldur's Gate 3 and Tears of the Kingdom, both were in the running for Game of the Year in a lot of people's minds. So that would inevitably lead to comparisons, because while Tears of the Kingdom, in my opinion, is quite good, and an improvement over Breath of the Wild, it is still an iterative sequel, whereas Baldur's Gate 3, especially to the normie audience, is something very different, given that CRPGs tend to not get the same amount of attention that Baldur's Gate 3 did, as oftentimes they keep the top down, you do a lot of reading or have a lot involved in that, but the amount of mocap, the over-the-shoulder camera when you're in dialogue, the excellent voice acting, ended up propelling Baldur's Gate 3 to where it had greater mainstream appeal, to where you then look at the sheer amount of different failure and success states that can arise from even a single side quest, let alone all of the interacting pieces. Yeah, it's no wonder why people generally preferred Baldur's Gate 3 to Tears of the Kingdom. Through no fault, and that's not to say that Tears of the Kingdom's a bad game, but that would be a major point of comparison, especially since they released around the same time. So that's one angle that Harmon could take. The second angle is, despite all of the jokes made in my response video about how he's the incarnate of the actually or the leave the multi-billion-dollar company alone or just a Reddit mod incarnate, you look at his Twitter and see what his opinions are. He's most likely on the opposite side of the culture war. Most likely, he would just take one look at the fact that there's a considerable amount of physical diversity in the game and think, oh, I can skewer the game on this alone. He might not even go so far as to go for what would be the easy critiques to make from an anti-woke perspective, where you could just say, oh, every party member is player sexual. That seems odd. You have all of these variations where your race and class can have all sorts of implications on dialogue and how people interact with you, and yet when it comes to your own party members, sexual orientation is just treated as you can go at it with whoever you want, whenever you want. That seems like an odd inconsistency. That's the writing aspect, let alone if you want to try and bring the culture war into this. So I suspect he's not even going to go that far, given the caliber he's shown. He's probably just going to be the kind of person who will just see, oh, great deal of physical diversity. Woke. So I am very curious to see what kind of angle is taken. If there even is a legitimate angle taken. This is probably just going to be 20 minutes of me just laughing, but you know what? It's going to be fun. What's Chap been up to? I'm very excited for the Palworld dating game. I'm going to date Saya so I can have someone to lead this world with. This is Dude! This is probably the darkest joke I've made. You've said some edgy stuff, especially when we were covering Freerun the last time. Calm down. Oh, I'm gonna get people mad at me for laughing at that. Okay, so let's get to the fun part. So, just to make sure that everything's fine, let's make sure that I've got the subtitles up from the start, just to make sure that we can get a proper read on him, in case he stumbles over himself and misspeaks, which is most likely possible. To be fair, I'm live, so I might have the same problems. But here goes nothing.
In order to better understand Baldur's Gate...
Why do I have to immediately turn up your audio volume? Why did people not know how to audio balance for shit? Okay, hang on. Let's see. Devices. I'm gonna forget that I turned up my device. Well, I'm gonna forget that I turned up my output device and get utterly ear raped so the next time I open a video game. I swear.
Gate 3.
Look at that. I mean, the last video we watched was coming out to about -3 as far as the decibels in desktop audio, and now it's sitting pretty at about -30. Also, that is a very unfortunate freeze frame. We're just gonna not do that. We are not gonna make any jokes about his appearance, first of all. I will leave that to you guys. And in case it needs to be said, don't harass him. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, I'm turning up desktop audio. How far do I need to go to where it looks like it's about comparable with my voice? I'm gonna start with 10 decibels, which is about what I set my microphone to. Let's see if that helps. I'll be spending a couple minutes making sure audio balance is good.
In order to better understand...
Okay, that's better. Alright, let me turn that down a little bit, actually. I think I overshot. Let's go with that.
Baldur's Gate 3. I decided to take it upon myself to play Baldur's Gate, but I didn't wait.
Oh, this is not what I expected. You're not talking about Baldur's Gate 3. You're going back to the originals, huh?
$60 playing the new game on my brand new shiny gaming PC. No, like, I decided it was time to go retro. It was time to go back to the classics. It was time to understand.
Oh, interesting. You're taking it in a very different direction than I'd expect. Although, to be clear, I have played both Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. I hold Baldur's Gate 2 as one of my favorites of all time. So, it's been a while since I've had to confront this, but I'm still very curious. So, but interesting. So when did this come out? September. So by this point, I believe Baldur's Gate 3 was out, right? Hang on. Let me check the Steam store real quick. Actually, I've got it installed, so store page. August 3rd. So yes, it had been about it had been almost 2 months. Oh, jeez. Yeah, Darkside Phil getting annoyed at Baldur's Gate 3 as well. Okay, so let us carry on.
Understand what Baldur's Gate is. So I went ahead and popped in Baldur's Gate 1 on my Nintendo Switch. I had it like sitting...
Oh, so there's your first mistake. Playing a CRPG on a console. That explains everything.
Around. I bought a handful of these D&D games. I own Neverwinter Nights. I own Planescape Torment. I own this, right? You know, I bought...
Wait, hang on. What did you say?
All of these D&D games. I own Neverwinter Nights. I own Planescape Torment.
Planescape Torment? Tourist, get out. Tourist, get the hell out.
I own this, right? You know, I bought a bunch of these games. I never really played any of them. So, like, I popped in Baldur's Gate 1.
You're going to be immediately put off by the interface. I'm guaranteeing it.
I played it on stream, and I was bored within a couple of minutes.
Yup. Because it is very much D&D, geared towards people who already like D&D, especially the older games. So, yep, this is exactly the take I would expect, where if you're not already invested in the combat system, then, yeah, of course you're going to find it boring, especially given that there isn't the same degree of shock and awe that you would find from a different game, especially if you grew up with Nintendo.
It is slow. It is boring. It is not all that well written.
Bullshit! It's not. Yes, it is well written, first of all. Okay, to be fair, it is BioWare, but it's old school BioWare where the exact moral dynamics and the events themselves are relatively straightforward, but the journey taken to reach that point is oftentimes very engaging because they know who they are, they know what they're capable of, especially back then, and they do it well. Baldur's Gate 2, I would lift up very highly on that basis.
The character art is bad.
You shut your whore mouth.
The combat is non-essential.
What do you mean non-essential? What do you mean? What do you mean non-essential? I mean, you played the first 2 minutes. Of course it seems inconsequential. If you only played the first 2 minutes, you wouldn't have even gotten to the rats at this point. You wouldn't have even gotten to the joke rat fight, let alone out into the world where you're wandering around with Imowen trying to figure out what you're doing.
The plot doesn't really amount to anything.
How do you know that if you spent 2 minutes in this game?
The game is outdated. There are better RPGs, particularly from Japanese developers.
Oh, I see how it is. Yeah, okay, yeah, let's just blaze the Japanese developers. Yeah, totally. You know, Pocket Pair's a Japanese developer, right?
That came before this, right? And
which ones? Name them! Hang on, when was Baldur's Gate 1? Let me confirm real quick. Alright. The original Baldur's Gate was 98. Actually, out of curiosity, let's get a comparison. When did Chrono Trigger come out? Okay, 95. So, very different kind of... So that did actually come out. I would put Chrono Trigger above Baldur's Gate, but that's just because for moment to moment, it's much easier to get into, and I just prefer Baldur's Gate 2 anyway, so... And that's the problem that Baldur's Gate 1 has, is that, in my mind, I played 2 first, so that's what I think of first when I think of the 2 games, and it's hard to go back to the first one after playing the second and having a grand old time with it. So I will grant him on that basis, but you're comparing apples and oranges here. JRPGs and CRPGs don't even exist in the same time zone, relatively speaking. Pun not intended.
And I really have to wonder just how exactly so many of these D&D games got made, how they got the pedigree and the respect they...
Because some people like digging through the complex rule set and coming up with all sorts of intricate strategies based on the complicated rule set rather than having the quick moment-to-moment gameplay. Because PC and consoles used to be completely different markets. Completely different in terms of what was considered acceptable design. I mean, the fact that it took until Halo for console shooters to properly land outside of rare instances, which even going back to nowadays, stuff like GoldenEye 007 is stuff that can be difficult to go back to because of the old school control scheme. The fact that it took Halo to revolutionize it, and it's still, and people like me who are used to keyboard and mouse still can't stand console shooters, I mean, completely different time zone, completely different markets back then. Again, your ignorance of an entire segment of the market does not mean that that market just does not exist and is completely incomprehensible.
They received over the years, and I imagine, much like every other Western video game franchise in existence, Western gamers simply don't understand that the Japanese equivalents are superior.
Okay, what Japanese equivalent to Baldur's Gate is there? JRPGs are a very different beast from CRPGs. Name them.
There are better RPGs like this on...
Okay, name them.
Japanese gaming platforms, right?
Name them.
There is a long...
Name them.
Long history of better stuff. Better...
Fucking name them! Oh, why am I getting so worked up? I went into this expecting a very different conversation. I should go dig up his annoyance at the Game Awards, giving Game of the Year to Baldur's Gate 3 after this. Okay, I'm gonna go digging for that once we're done here. Let's see if there's anything more worth digging it through here.
War stories, better turn...
Baldur's Gate isn't a war story! is this comparison coming from? What is this?
Based RPGs better.
Okay, turn-based is very broad. I'm not going to dispute that too much. There are better turn-based RPGs.
Better made games in general. With
Purely subjective on that count. Define better made.
better visuals, more
Depends on what you're looking for from the time. To be fair, Baldur's Gate, they were developing the engine alongside the game. They did improve their craft, but they're looking for something very different as far as art style and as far as presentation and as far as execution. So, again, comparing apples to oranges.
exploration, better, more content.
Spoken as someone who only spent 2 minutes with it. Of course you think there's more content in a game like Chrono Trigger. No, I could spend more time in Baldur's Gate just exploring everything. No.
Endless amounts of replayability and fun.
You can change up your character considerably. You have multiple different companions you can pull in to where you can have completely different outcomes for multiple quests depending on whether you do a good or evil run. No.
Fun, right? Real.
Well, fun is subjective, so I'm not going to dispute that one.
Sequels, like the.
What do you mean real What do you mean real sequels? Baldur's Gate 2 literally is a direct sequel. Different opponents, very different story in a lot of ways, though Throne of Ball does tie it back into the events of Baldur's Gate 1. But it is literally a direct sequel. You are playing the same character. You can literally export the characters. You can literally export your character in Baldur's Gate 1, pull them directly into Baldur's Gate 2. That is something you are allowed to do. What are you smoking? Who is your dealer? I need to know. For research. Totally just research. Wait, this guy's an anti-woke clown? Does he not realize the irony that he bends over backwards for a Japanese company? Well, I guess to explain that side of the internet, there's a unusual circumstance with respect, to the anti-woke side of the culture war, where they tend to be very, what's the right word? So, because of how annoyed they are at the way that Western game studios have been acting, whether it be demeaning their audience or the design decisions or creative decisions that are made, there is a certain degree of appreciation for Japan for continuing to just be themselves and unabashedly themselves, though you don't see, to the point where whenever a Japanese company messes up, there's a reflexive instinct to blame the localization team rather than the Japanese studio themselves. So, it's hard to... It depends, and the other part of it is that the anti-woke side of the culture war is also a very large tent, depending on what you're looking at, because the battle lines, as I understand them, are very much the progressive and socialist side of the equation versus everyone else to an extent, depending on where things stand. As it was very much, hey, we have these ideas that we want to see expressed, we're going to push for them with everything we've got, and then varying degrees to which people will disagree and push back. So you could have someone who is classically liberal who thinks, okay, yeah, we don't mind that you want to add more physical diversity, but the way you're going about it is is going to be heavy-handed and cause backlash, and you've got people who will be outright racist and say, okay, come on, we don't want this, get out of here. And will push back on the entire concept in general, so it's hard to know exactly where he stands on it, although with some of the recent discourse, I think there were, I'm not going to repeat specific points, but it would not surprise me if he were on the more radical side of the anti-woke side of things. Not quite full synthetic man, but probably close to it. So, I'm not entirely sure where that would lead him to land, but either way. Shouldn't he also hate the Pokemon games themselves since they have a lot of female and non-white characters? Well, you see, the difference is that he would likely make if he were on the anti-woke grift is that he would say, well, yeah, but the Japanese characters are attractive. That would be the most likely argument, I would presume. I can just imagine him seeing the first female gym leader and breaking down into tears and saying, "Why is this dishwasher in a oh jeez, why is this dishwasher in a position of power and not in the kitchen with the other appliances?" Oh boy. I don't think he's quite that severe on that side of things, but still. I love my favorite JRPG Fortnite. Oh boy. Baldur's Gate's my favorite farming sim. Oh boy. So, I don't think he's that far. I only got a general sense that, okay, yeah, you're definitely not on the progressive side of the culture war. That much is obvious. But, all that to say, we'll see how things turn out. I don't expect that we'll see a lot of that exhibit themselves, given that we're focused on the original Baldur's Gate, but we'll see.
Like, Baldur's Gate, and
I love the auto text. That's funny.
I suppose every other like CRPG, they rely entirely on the D&D brand name. Like,
not necessarily. Pillars of Eternity doesn't.
Oh man, like if you just use your imagination, you can just pretend as if you're an interesting character.
I'd like you to play Planescape Torment and then repeat that, because Planescape Torment and Pillars of Eternity later did something that I thought was really interesting with the dialogue, where, yes, it is very much reliant on text-based stuff. It is, well, a lot of the dialogue and a lot of the descriptions are text-based, where you have the board that you are looking upon and are being given descriptions and whatnot. But what I like about Planescape Torment and Pillars of Eternity is that instead of just approaching a character and immediately entering dialogue, they will also give a description of the characters themselves, how they look, their appearance, how they're dressed, their posture, that sort of thing, whatever they're doing at the time, to where it's more than just you speak with them and it's just left at that, but you're also getting a sense for their body language as well as you are interacting with them. That's something that admittedly Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 don't do. That is something that Black Isle directly, as well as Obsidian later, would primarily focus on, but still.
You can just pretend as if this setting and world matters to you. You can just pretend that it's not completely generic and uninspired.
I will grant you that the Forgotten Realms is more on the generic side of things than not. Uninspired, I would dispute.
You can just pretend that you're actually fighting when you roll the dice. Like, you can just pretend that, like, this is happening and that this is a big deal. You can just pretend that this is a good video game.
You can just pretend that Palworld doesn't have any players.
Deserves the praise, attention, and hype that it
You can pretend that Palworld deserves the praise, attention, and hype that it's getting.
It's gotten over the years. You know, like, much like...
You can throw literally all of this back in your face. You are not the person to be making this argument.
Like every other PC game in existence, you know, including stuff like StarCraft, including stuff like WoW.
You really don't understand the PC market, do you?
World of Warcraft, including like everything else that comes out. Like,
how would you call those generic anyway? What do you want about?
It really does feel as if PC gamers don't understand how good Nintendo fans have it.
Yeah, we understand completely. My Switch 2 is sitting right next to me. Right next to my PC. I do understand how good you have it. I also understand how good I have it, with my nice little PC over here, which is great. Why can't I have both?
They don't understand how much better our stuff is.
You don't understand how good our stuff is, so I don't trust you on that count.
And as a result, they don't respect it.
I don't respect you.
Right? They don't understand the just how much more advanced Japanese RPGs are.
Define advanced. How are they more advanced exactly? Because what you are describing... Well, how are they more advanced? Because let's just compare two apples and oranges real quick. Chrono Trigger versus Baldur's Gate. So, both uplifted as shining beacons of their particular subgenre. So, Chrono Trigger is more advanced in the sense that you have... Well, let's see, how would I describe it? Chrono Trigger is more advanced in that you have a pseudo-turn-based system where... Actually, why are we even discussing turn-based? Because Baldur's Gate 3 is real-time with pause. I don't know if he even knows that. Does he even know Baldur's Gate is real-time with pause? Why am I even entertaining this?
They don't understand what we Nintendo fans were getting around the same time.
It didn't matter. We could have both. They were completely different markets, with completely different age brackets, and completely different expectations. Why are you bringing this up?
You know, they don't understand.
Why is Nintendo coming up in a conversation regarding Baldur's Gate?
That like Baldur's Gate like is entirely built on a lie, right? Like that.
Hang on, I need to hear that again.
We're getting around the same time. You know, they don't understand that like Baldur's Gate like is entirely built on a lie, right?
What's the lie exactly? It's a real game. It's a setting that people have used to get started with D&D. What's the problem here? Out of context day? Oh boy, reading that out of context. What is that? What was that in reference to? Let's see. Alright, it looks like Gray had more for the Pokemon stuff, or Critical Drinker who counted the number of non-white characters in a Star Wars show than complained about it. Yeah, and that is the difficulty you run into when you are focusing on the culture war as well, where it can be very easy to get bogged down in the specifics of your particular focus. Because I will say right now that I do have a preferred outcome for how I would like the culture war to be resolved, but I don't believe that I gain anything by trying to push for that with my YouTube channel. Because, one, I feel like I would become no better than... Well, I feel like I would become no better than a lot of the people that are often complained about. Because, one, I get too emotionally invested in stuff. Two, I'm not amazing at research, so I don't know if I'd be amply prepared to handle all of the really tough questions. So I'd end up just being an albatross around my side's neck, whichever one I picked. And three, there's far too many people commenting on it right now to where it's just an absolute quagmire at the best of times. Or, when you are explicitly making content focused on that aspect, you create an indirect incentive to try and see that in everything. I think the big example that comes to mind for me is that I think it was the Hawkeye show where people were complaining about the female character. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but I remember I think it was Nerdrotic who was complaining about the female character, and even Mauler's audience at the time was basically saying, you were calling her a Mary Sue, and if you were talking about the comic book iteration where she is very much politicized to an extent, I mean, I could see why you'd be initially upset about this, but the MCU version is perfectly acceptable. Within her first attempt to try and be useful, she gets captured once she's trying to rescue Hawkeye, and he has to break both of them out. She's not a Mary Sue. What are you talking about? And so that is the risk you run into, where you have these circumstances where you can get way too emotionally invested in trying to play the tribal aspect when, if you really want to make the biggest dent possible, your best bet would just be to say, okay, is this good? Because, I mean, going back to Baldur's Gate 3, the fact that every party member is player sexual, that is an argument that can be made independent of any culture war arguments you would want to make, where a culture warrior would look at that and say, oh, so this is just Blarian trying to be overly inclusive, whereas someone who's focused on the writing could just say, there are bigger fish to fry with respect to this, right? The fact that there is an argument to be made that you shouldn't just tacitly assume that any character can get together with any other character, because humans are always going to have a particular preference, and, well, humans relatively speaking in a world like D&D, but sentient creatures are going to have a preference irrespective, and then you've got all this other variety across the game, and yet the relationship and the romance aspect is the part that's seemingly less emphasized with respect to that, even as that's an important part of most character journeys, and arguably the only way to really dive in deep with a particular character. There's no instance where you can just have Will as a drinking buddy and learn a lot about him that way. You either go forward with the romance option or you don't. So I do wonder about the circumstances there. So there are arguments that you can make, and honestly, you're better off just making the writing arguments and focused on that even if you are involved in the culture war, where you can just say, okay, it doesn't matter what side you're appealing to, it doesn't matter why you're appealing to it, is it actually well written? Is it actually a good argument? Is the method, well, does the math? So that's my general feeling on it. Hopefully that all makes sense. Dang, my previous comment about Ryan Kindle got censored. Oof. Although, depending on the kind of comments that you're trying to dredge up, because there's a lot of spicy things he said on shows before, so I am relatively knowledgeable when it comes to culture war stuff, so we could talk about this for a long time, though. If I can go I'm sure you could probably figure out which side I tend to lean toward more so, but still, if you dug deep enough anyway. But my feeling is, you know what? If it's impossible to figure out, cool. As far as I'm concerned, the best way that I can be of help is to be a neutral arbiter in that sense, where I just focus on the arguments, focus on the writing, see what works, what doesn't. Let the people who are actually committed to making a difference in that matter figure things out. Hey, oh, hello, sir. Hey, I saw your video on this fat bootlicker, and oh my gosh, I just don't understand fanboys like Harmon attacking Pokemon. Yeah, well, I mean, we're looking at him talk about Baldur's Gate, and somehow he has to bring up Nintendo, so I think that tells you all you need to know. Also, thank you for joining us. I hope you're doing well.
Right? Like that it's this great RPG, like nothing else like it. You know,
I mean, at the time, there were RPGs that were trying to do the turn-based thing, but Baldur's Gate did stand out at the time for doing real-time with pause, and for so closely mimicking the D&D format outside of that one difference. So, yeah, for the time it was really revolutionary, and it did a lot of cool stuff back then.
True successor to Ultima, which was replaced by Dragon Quest. Like,
No, Dragon Quest is a very different thing from Ultima, isn't it?
True successor to, like, the original CRPGs.
Because it is? Where are you going with this?
Right? Like,
I mean, there's two very different tracks involved here, aren't there? I'm a huge Palworld fanatic myself. Hell, I got over 820 hours in that game. Oh, jeez. I posted what I said in the Discord server if you're interested. Alright, let's take a look real quick. Okay, so I didn't think it was that severe with Ryan's review of the Batman, but I'll have to go digging to see. No, I'll have to go digging on that. Not that I care to look too far at that side of the internet anyway. I've got enough to worry about.
Like, it's just, it's appalling, you know? Like, seeing...
Yeah, you are appalling. What's your point?
Baldur's Gate 3 and seeing people just lap that shit up because they have nothing else.
You have no idea who developed Baldur's Gate 3, do you? The big complaint on people initially, when Baldur's Gate 3 was announced, is that it's not BioWare making it, that it's Larian. And the big complaint I saw, regardless of where you stood on the game, is that, there's a lot of Divinity Original Sin in my Baldur's Gate here, what's going on? Very different company, very different game on its face. And the fact that you don't understand that, I mean, to be fair, I'm not surprised that you're taking this stance that, oh, we're just going to play the original and just assume nothing. It's not as if, well, to be fair, you're a Nintendo fanboy, so I guess you would just assume that if it's a linear title that it would be the same studio working on it, but that's not always how things work over here. Arguably, it's a good thing BioWare didn't make Baldur's Gate 3. Well, rather, here's the funny thing. You want an interesting video? Go look up Indigo Gaming. Look up a video he made called Fallout Was Sold, Not Saved. Fascinating look into Black Isle's history. Where it was... well, I think he led the video by saying that Black Isle at the time, back in the, I think, early 2000s, had both Baldur's Gate 3 and Fallout 3 that were being worked on, neither of which came to fruition in the form that they originally planned. Where it would have originally been BioWare working on Baldur's Gate 3 before they ended up, well, before Black Isle fell apart. Well, Black Isle and I think Interplay was the parent company, fell apart. And only for... well, and then Fallout got picked up by Bethesda and turned into their typical shooter, turned into a shooter relying on the creation engine based on what they done with the Elder Scrolls. And then Baldur's Gate 3, a lot of the original ideas that BioWare had for that got rolled into what was it? Divinity? No. What was it? Dragon Age Origins. There it is. So, fascinating stuff going through that history. Well, if it's a longer video, but actually, you know what? I should just find it right now and show you the first few minutes of it. Let me pull up, let's see. Let me just show you the first few minutes of this. Now this will lead me to it.
How easy it would be to fall for you.
Shut up. I'm gonna get content ID'd if I let that play. Okay, so let's go to the point in the transcript where... Let's see. Transcript. Here we are. Let's go to the point where he starts speaking. Here we are.
In the cutthroat world of video games,
Oh, right. I need to remember that I need to reset my audio balance because Harmon doesn't know how to audio balance.
business can be just as deadly as bad design.
Sorry for blowing out your ears on that. Sorry about that.
What if I told you that the same person canceled Fallout 3 and Baldur's Gate 3 in the same year? You'd probably think I got my companies and years mixed up, but if true, it had to be one of the biggest blunders in video game business history. So was the chaos and uncertainty of Interplay's later days. In their prime, they were at the helm of legendary franchises like Fallout, Dungeons & Dragons, and Star Trek, even filming the original cast while they were still with us. Interplay was such a key video game figure in the 90s. They published the first titles by future heavyweights like BioWare, Blizzard Entertainment, and Treyarch. Decades on, the original creators left the company, and Interplay's an empty shell of the industry giant they once were.
Yeah. Fascinating video to look into. Fascinating video to look into. Definitely check this one out. Fallout was saved, not sold by Indigo Gaming. He does really good work. He doesn't post very often because, I mean, look at that runtime. And the amount of research that would have had to have been done for this as well, even if he were living in that time. Fascinating stuff. So, sorry about that volume blast, but either way, let me reset the audio to where it was so that we can keep listening to this brat. Alright, there we go. Is there anything I missed in chat while this is going on? Is it if you're struggling to beat Saya, just bring Hang You, pal, and you won't even have to fight? Why do I get the feeling that that's going to be another joke on... You know what? No. No. Okay, there's the comment following it up. That was just a joke. It doesn't actually do anything. I can guess based on the name, and I think I know what you're talking about with the PAL deck entry, but whatever. Oh, hi, Cheeto. How you doing? You coming to say hello to the peoples? You being a good cat? Alrighty, back to this imbecile.
Right? They have nothing else to talk about this year. It just really...
Nothing else to... Tears of the Kingdom came out. Bring that up.
It really makes me feel sad for people who grew up on gaming PCs, who...
I didn't grow up with a gaming PC. I grew up with just a PC. I grew up with Knights of the Old Republic. I grew up with flight sims and Star Wars games. I still have a joystick sitting up on my, bookcase right there. It still works. I had to buy a new one a few years ago, but that one still works. I've used it for Star Wars Squadrons to test things out for a Linux video a couple of years ago. It's a good time.
Genuinely think this stuff is good. Who genuinely have no idea what's actually out there. Who have no
genuinely idea of what's actually out there. You don't know what's out there. You are the man in the cave who believes the shadows are real. You are in Plato's cave trying to lecture the people who have left the cave. That is literally you.
Real life experiences. Who have...
Yeah. Need I say more?
Never played sports or gone for a bike ride or gone kayaking or
I literally go out for walks on a regular basis when I need to get away from my computer. You are literally talking to the last person. Well, that argument would work on a literal basement dweller. And I could dwell in my basement if I wanted to. It's a comfortable basement, but still, come on. He built this in a cave with a box of scraps.
Like, held hands with a girl. That is...
I don't believe you've held hands with a girl. I can't say anything either. But I don't believe you've held hands with a girl. That wasn't your mother. Or your sister. Okay, that was too far. That was too far. Don't quote me on that. Let's see. This imbecile's willing to white knight for a law firm disguised as a AAA slot company that, no joke, tried to sue Blockbuster over renting Nintendo games. Wait, seriously? I'll have to look into that. I love how every time you pause, you get a perfect thumbnail. Let's not talk about that.
This is the typical PC gaming audience, right? That's the kind of...
You know what? It's that Family Guy meme where, why do you always act like you're better than me? And then it's just us with our fancy gaming PCs. And our VR headsets. And our actual games that don't cost $60. And I like Nintendo games, don't get me wrong. They make good video games. But, game recognizes game. I can have both my fun games on PC and my fun games on Switch. That is perfectly fine.
Person who thinks Baldur's Gate is a particularly well-made, interesting, or fun video game.
Yeah, it's a very it is tailored to a very specific audience. I am part of that very specific audience. Therefore, I like it. What is so hard to understand? Not everything needs to be mainstream. Not everything should be mainstream.
That is the situation we find ourselves in. That people just don't have enough life experience to realize that stuff like Baldur's...
You know, we've gone over this a little bit, that you're more likely on the anti-woke side of the culture war than not. One of the big annoyances that the anti-woke side has is the whole, you don't have these particular lived experience, therefore you can't speak on this matter. That is a major point of contention that the anti-woke side has, where they would contest that. Why are you bringing up the life experience bit?
Stuff like D&D just isn't all that fun.
You've never actually played D&D, have you? I have a D&D group that dates back to my college days that I still meet regularly with. We still have a grand old time with it. We're not using the Forgotten Realms setting, granted. We homebrew our worlds, though we still use the combat system, but you don't understand. And I don't know of a way that I could make you understand. Well, what's the quote from Odin from God of War Ragnarok? Haven't played the game, but I've seen plenty of discourse on it. I can explain it to you, but I can't make you understand it.
Right? People just need to accept this, right?
Alright, you just need to accept that people enjoy Palworld.
That...
Why is your camera refocusing?
If you revolve your life around D&D,
if you revolve your life around Pokemon...
you name your dogs like Thaco or whatever, if you...
Are you talking about yourself?
Build your entire online presence on a D&D character.
If you build your entire online presence on a Pokemon
you came up with when you're a kid.
If you build your entire presence on an evolution you came up with when you're a kid.
I'll be Spoony the Bard.
Oh, I'll be Vaporeon today. Speak for yourself.
And imagine spending
D&D isn't fun. Wait until this guy finds out about Critical Role. To be fair, I don't actually watch Critical Role. Because I prefer to engage in shenanigans rather than watch them, so I generally don't watch Critical Role. I did check out the Vox Machina show at the insistence of a friend and watch the first season. Not my cup of tea. It felt like there were too many in-jokes and that would only make sense if I had actually watched the campaign. And it felt like it was caught between wanting to have this very visceral appearance while still doing all of the funny, while still keeping all of the funny quirks and silly lines from the original campaign that work just fine across a table when you're all joking around with it, but don't work nearly as well when you're trying to maintain a serious tone with your visuals, and then you just have someone pop up with, well, that just happened. So, not my cup of tea, but still. I know there are people who like Critical Role. Heck, one of the dungeon masters in my D&D group watches Critical Role, so can't say too much on that count. Let's see. Currently at work right now, packing boxes at Amazon, working 10 hours a day, and I'll bet this Nintendo wouldn't last a week working there. Ouch. Well, may you find fruitful work that supports you, that you can use to support your life without feeling like you're slaving away on something you don't enjoy. May you find that work soon. Really, this guy is going to say other people don't go outside when he needs a telescope to see. Dude! To see his feet, to be clear. You weren't making that kind of joke, but... Speaking of Vaporeon, it wouldn't surprise me if this was the guy who wrote the copy pasta. I could see it. Oh god, I could see it.
30 years of your life, like...
Imagine spending 30 years of your life, like...
Revolving your life.
Revolving your life around
this character.
This franchise. You
know, building yourself up. Using this character in multiple campaigns.
Using these Pokemon every time a new game comes out.
Using this character, like, in a entirely new, like,
using this Pokemon in an entirely different way with a completely different moveset.
Like, in every D&D game.
In every tournament you can find.
You get your hands on, like, oh man.
You bring out this Pokemon card every time to show off to your friends.
Imagine just being that person.
You are that person. And you don't even realize it. This is... I hate to repeat myself, but this is just Plato's Cave. I remember playing D&D, my character was a badass dark and edgy wizard who's quiet and only speaks when necessary, with a cute and adorable cheerful squirrel sidekick named Snuggles. Oh man, fun times. Yep, that's pretty much accurate, because when my father played D&D, he'd have the big scary barbarian who he would name Miss Piddleworth, because that was D&D back then. It was just a silly, grand old time. And that was back when they were accused of demon worship, too. Either way. I hope you're getting paid well. I've heard horror stories about Amazon. Yeah, that's a difficult situation, yeah, because it varies from place to place, to be fair, but still. Alright. Enough serious IRL BS. Let's get back to the fun BS.
Who never understands that, like, maybe other people can come up with more interesting characters than
you. Yeah, maybe other people can come up with more interesting games than Game Freak.
You can. You know.
Then you can as well. Yeah, exactly.
The iconic Spoonie the Bard is just...
The iconic Pikachu.
A knockoff of...
Is just a knockoff of something from Dragon Quest, I think.
Edward. You know, a C-string character from Final Fantasy IV.
I don't know that character, so I'm not going to comment on that.
Right? Like,
also, how do you know?
There is no respect for, like, the creativity of Japanese art.
There's no respect for the creativity of anything. It's just, gotta have another Pikachu-like that doesn't land as well because it's not Pikachu.
RPGs. There is no acknowledgement that these games are better. Like, people...
There's no acknowledgement that CRPGs are just a completely different beast, like...
Only worship Baldur's Gate.
People only worship Pokemon.
They only worship these games because... It's D&D. Like,
it's Pokemon.
Like, they have nothing else in their lives.
Yes! Ugh. What am I even doing?
They have no ability to, like, comprehend or...
They have no ability to, like, comprehend anything different.
Understand anything that...
That isn't, like, loosely based on Pokemon. They see Palworld and they think, oh, that's clearly just Pokemon, but ripoff, right?
Loosely inspired by D&D in some way.
Yeah, not even loosely inspired by. Clearly Palworld is just ripoff, right?
Right? These people have deluded themselves into...
Thinking
that Tolkien, like, invented fantasy, right?
Yeah, they think that Pokemon just invented creature capture.
That this is the only fantasy game worth playing.
Yeah, this is the only creature capture worth playing.
All right, this is the only thing worth talking about or being.
This is the only thing worth talking about or being invested in. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Oh, so much of this can just. You know what? Given the nature of this guy, this probably is the best way to get him mad, isn't it?
Excited for or enjoying. Right?
Yeah, the only thing to be excited for and enjoying is just shitting on Palworld. Yeah, what a life that must be. How miserable must that life be?
Right? That is the Baldur's Gate audience. That is
the Pokemon audience.
CRPG audience.
That is the Pokemon audience, yeah. That is the turn-based strategy audience who can't understand that sometimes turn-based strategy can look very different depending on how simple or complex you make the underlying rule set. Yeah, totally.
That is the PC gaming audience in general. The
PC audience... Okay, I'm actually going to stop the bit for a moment. The PC audience is quite wide. And not just in terms of weight. There are... I'm actually pretty skinny myself, but that's beside the point. But where did that come from? I should not drink before these. But anyway, putting that aside, there is a wide breadth to the kind of experiences you can find in the PC market. You can find... And the fun thing about it is that all of the classics that you're talking about, we can find them on PC too. It's called game preservation. It's called emulators. Are they always above board? Not necessarily. You do have to worry about a legal gray area with respect to that. I don't condone piracy. If a game is being offered somewhere then yeah, you should pay for it. Make sure that especially if the original developers are being compensated for it, so entirely fair on that count. But there's all sorts of cool stuff that you can only find on PC, and there's a lot of game preservation and a lot of stuff that you can't buy anymore that, because of PC, you can still play. You should actually be thankful for PC that people are able to go back to the old Pokemon games. I mean, Lord knows you're not going to find Pokemon Yellow on NSO anytime soon, not if they're bringing Fire Red and Leaf Green back first.
vegans of gaming, right?
Hang on, what is that supposed to mean?
That is the PC gaming audience in general. The vegans of gaming, right?
So, you'll know a PC gamer because they'll tell you, pot, meat, kettle. Hang on, what was that line from SAO? Mr. Pot, Mr. Kettle called. He says you're black! Just, come on, you are literally the last person to say this. Good lord. Shave will never be the same. Consequences will never be the same. Nintendo doesn't own the concept of taming and catching and training cutesy-wootsy animal monsters with superpowers. What a delusional bootlicker. Yeah, well, here we are.
People who revolve their lives around trying to convince you...
People who revolve their lives around trying to convince you that...
their lifestyle is superior to yours.
Yeah, that their franchise is superior to your favorites.
That is the situation we find ourselves in right now.
That is the situation we find ourselves in with Pokemon.
Now, that is what I thought.
That is what I thought playing Scarlet and Violet.
Playing Baldur's Gate is that this is...
Okay, that is funny. This turned into a Maxwell video in a hurry.
Is not a game I would ever have even considered playing.
Because you're not the target demographic. Next question.
If it wasn't so hyped up to me by...
Okay, yeah. Pokemon Legends ZA... Well, actually, Legends ZA wasn't hyped up to me. Pokopia has been hyped up to me, and I'll probably check it out at some point. We'll see how good it ends up being.
By so many people.
See, that's the difference between you and me. I'm actually open to trying things out and seeing if it's actually worth it. I did try Sword and Shield as a way to get back into Pokemon after having some enjoyment with Gen 4 via emulator. And then I thought, okay, well, that's okay. It's baby's first Pokemon game, that's fine. And then Gen 4 comes out properly, well, as part of a remake, and I think, okay, well, I emulated the, Pokemon Platinum. May as well check this out. Didn't get too far in it, because it was basically the same as I had already played. And then Legends Arceus comes out, and I think, oh, here's something cool. Nice. Alright, cool. We'll see if they do anything interesting. And then Legends ZA went in a very different direction that I didn't enjoy as much. haven't technically finished all the main story content there because I have to do a bunch of the ZA Royale in order to get to the last to the last quote unquote main story battle in order to get Mega Floette, but I'm not too concerned about it. I've had my fill. I got my 40 hours out of it. I got it for Christmas, so it's not like I spent money on it. Eventually I might check out the DLC, maybe won't. I got my money's worth. I'm not too worried. Either way.
You know, much like Fallout New Vegas, much like Skyrim.
What's wrong with Fallout New Vegas? People like that one. I will grant you, Skyrim didn't land for me as I'm not a fan of open world games, but...
Much like Horizon Zero Dawn or...
Why is PlayStation taking strays? I mean, they deserve it, to be fair, but... Horizon Zero Dawn people like too, although I'm not sure how much I would like it because, again, not a fan of open world games.
Like any other RPG that, like, people...
Would Horizon Zero Dawn technically be considered an RPG? I'd call it a third-person open-world game first, over an RPG. But, what do I know?
People have hyped up over these, well, I wouldn't call Horizon Zero Dawn RPG, but like, much like any other game that people have hyped up over the years.
Yeah, much like any other Pokemon game that people have hyped up over the years, although to be fair, you don't see that as much anymore.
From these third parties.
What do you mean by that?
All of these games.
But there's no first-party PC market. The closest we have to that is Steam, and they have an outsized portion of the market, but they are not the sole monopoly. I was reminded in the comments of my response video that Roblox has a substantial market share, to the point where Steam is arguably a rounding number by comparison, but even then, come on, man, you can do better. Okay, I don't know if you actually can do better than that, but still.
Games are just a complete waste of time and distract you from the far better crafted, enjoyable.
You know, if you would actually committed to the bit of you need more life experience and you should go outside, touch grass, go hold a girl's hand and all that fun stuff, if you had actually committed to that part of your bit, I might have had more respect for you. But no, you're going to say far better crafted and just name a bunch of nebulous Japanese games and say these are clearly better when, you know, you could actually name some. I could give you Chrono Trigger. I like Final Fantasy VII too. Haven't tried the remake out because they haven't finished it yet. Square Enix. But there's probably a bunch of really good Japanese games I'd probably really like. It's just I haven't had much time for them. So I'd very much like recommendations. You claim there's all these good ones. Why don't you tell me them? Give me something to work with there.
Limitlessly replayable.
You spent all of 2 minutes with Baldur's Gate. You do not get to talk about replayability.
Endless supply of interesting, unique, fresh Nintendo games.
Okay, well, unique. So look at Steam. You have an endless supply of interesting, unique, fresh games
that you've never even heard of.
Exactly. There are so many games. Hang on. Let's see. What can I pull out? Let me just look at the Steam store right now. Let's see what we find. Oh, Sega's doing a publisher sale right now. They've got a bunch of good stuff. Let's see, what sort of games can you find on there? You have everything from Sonic Racing's Cross World to Persona 3's remake to Total War Warhammer, Yakuza. Let's see, what else have we got in here? Let's see, a bunch of Sonic games. Actually, did they ever remove Denuvo from Sonic Frontiers? I'm assuming not. I don't wanna stop at all! Really? You put the... Okay. This is why I shouldn't be opening crap when I'm streaming. Ow. I just gave ear rape to everybody again. Yep, they... Wait, hang on. Yeah, they did remove... They haven't removed Denuvo yet. Damn it! Get rid of Denuvo on your games, Sega. I actually want to play them, but I don't want to deal with Denuvo. Especially not on a Linux PC. Sorry about the loud noises, boys. Ow. Ash Ketchum is just the worst character ever created, and also he's a Japanese version of Peter Pan. No wonder the anime sucked. Oh, cheers. Switch 2 plays Sonic Frontiers good? That might be worth checking out there. Although, am I willing to saddle it to a console that inevitably becomes obsolete is the question. If they just took the Harry Potter route with the Pokemon anime and aged up Ash as well as make it darker along the way, then that would be interesting. to be fair, they do attempt to cover dark subject matters every now and then, but they also got smacked about a bunch whenever they got controversial, so I don't blame them too much for being gun-shy, but at the same time, I do wonder. There's a lot that they could have done. I'll be curious to see where they end up going in future, though they have saddled themselves to being for all ages, and therefore, there's a degree to which they may feel as if they can't take particular risks. So, most likely, we'd just have to rely on stuff like Palworld in order to try and fill the gaps.
Right? There are so many games that
Yeah, there's so many games on here. Hang on, let's go back to Steam real quick. What can I find? So there was the Sega Publisher Sale. If I go back to home, we've got some, let's see, Crusader Kings, what looks like Friend Slop, Raft. I heard good things about that. I'm not even sure what that one is. That looks like a visual novel. What the hell is even that? What the hell is even that? I don't recognize most of these. Oh, hey, Valheim, another survival game. And then... okay, this looks like a meta game that would end up being compared to Undertale. Let's see, what else? I mean... oh, hey. Endemic's latest game finally got a 1.0 version. I wonder if that'll be worth checking out now. There's a lot of stuff on here. Calm the hell down.
I would recommend over Baldur's Gate. You know,
I mean, Baldur's Gate 1 would take a lot of patience to get used to, given how, well, given how user-friendly games have become, especially if you're relatively new to it. I'd recommend a widescreen mod or something like that. I'd hesitate to recommend the enhanced editions, unfortunately, because they do add a bunch of writing that is arguable as to whether it actually fits, but still. I don't know much about the anime, so I can't comment much on that. However, I will say if Team Rocket were the main characters, it'd be an instant 10 out of 10. Oh boy. Heading off for my lunch break. Take care, and I hope the stream goes well. I'll catch y'all on the flip side. All right, good luck to you.
You know, having played Baldur's Gate, like having experienced it, having like.
But you experienced all of 2 minutes of it, according to you.
Okay.
You didn't even get out of Candlekeep by the sounds of it.
You know, a first-hand experience of what playing this game is like. It's boring.
You're boring.
That's what it amounts to.
Pokemon's boring. That's what it amounts to. I could keep throwing these back at you all day, and we'll be here all day.
You are better off playing a better game.
You are better off playing a better game
from Nintendo.
From literally anyone other than Game Freak. Also, are you really so incompetent at this that you can't just stare at the camera for a couple of seconds and then just do a cut in a video editing software? Is that really such a complicated topic that you just do not understand? Why am I even bothering? Oh well. Whatever the case may be. What else? Was there anything else I missed in chat? Fallout New Vegas is my favorite game of all time, and I bet this fool couldn't even get out of Doc Mitchell's house. Oh yeah, at some point I need to get back to my Fallout playthrough. Although, I tasked myself with trying to get through the rest of Engage that I need to before fully critiquing it, but either way. Okay, so, before I call it a night, I do want to see if I can find where Harmon talked about Baldur's Gate 3 properly. So let me pull up a browser real quick and I'll go hunting for that. While I'm doing that, how are you all doing? Alright, Harmon Smith, Baldur's Gate 3. Let's see what we got. Alright, so there's a bunch of videos talking about... You're kidding. Okay, I need to show you this. You're kidding. You're kidding. You're kidding. This isn't even the first time he's pulled this shit? Palworld isn't even the first time that he's tried to say that sales numbers are faked? You realize that Larian has people on Tencent that have invested in them to an extent, right? You realize that if they were faking sales numbers, there'd be a lot of questions from PlayStation and Sony once they landed on their platforms, right? What? This isn't even the first time that you've pulled this? What? I thought that was... Hang on, I mean, I see videos like this and I'm thinking, hang on a minute, I'm thinking, okay, wait, he's claiming sales numbers are fake? Okay, calm down. That surely it's not that. I should know better. You know what? I think we stop here. Because I kind of want... You know what? Here's what we'll do. We're not going to watch the video itself, because we know how that's going to go. We're going to read the transcript. And we're going to see if we can dissect anything of use from this real quick. I mean, no, I'm not going to do my best impression. So let's see. Oh, and apparently this guy absolutely hates Elden Ring too, which I haven't played, so I can't speak to. So let's see. Da-da-da. Okay, so he's just complaining about where the numbers are coming from. It's trying to say that Steam is trying to pad the numbers to make themselves look more desirable, as if they need to even pull that off. Okay, yeah. Let's be honest. We could end up on this rabbit hole for a while, and we're just not going to get anywhere. So, you know what? We're going to let this be the final word on Harmon Smith. There is no need to go any further. We know the kind of person he is. We know the kind of content he makes. We know the kind of takes he makes. There is no need to delve any further, at least tonight. So, let me just check one last thing real quick on a different screen. Just to make sure that we're good to go. Alright, so what was his most... Alright, yeah, not worth worrying about then. Alrighty. We will leave it there. We will leave it there. The rabbit hole got to me. Not entirely untrue. Also, it is about when I would normally be wrapping up a stream. Well, it is rare for me to do a stream that's more than 3 hours, let alone a react stream. So, now seems like a very good time to call it. So, either way, that is where we will leave it with this unfortunate soul once again being incapable of, well, once again having to deny reality in order to feel better about himself. And then projecting his insecurities onto the rest of us. So, either way, thank you all for joining me on this little adventure. Hopefully it was entertaining to some extent. Dr. J's views are obviously fake. Oh, man. Okay. Okay. I feel like I just evolved into a child for part of this nonsense, but you know what? If you were entertained, that's all that matters. We'll see how much I regret of this in the morning, right? Either way, thank you all for joining me. So, updates. The plan for the next few weeks. So, next week is going to be another one-off. I think I know what I'm going to be focused on. I'm bouncing back and forth between showing off the progress on my game, or taking another crack at Star Fox 64, since when we looked at Star Fox in general, I didn't exactly do all that well. So I'm thinking taking another crack at Star Fox 64, focusing explicitly on just that game and trying to work my way up to be better at it might be better than just jumping back and forth between a bunch of different Star Fox games, just to see if I can actually master it. That's what I'm leaning toward right now, especially since my game doesn't even have a proper visual style in place, which, to be fair, there may be something fascinating in that, seeing it come together, but still, the visual part is going to take a while yet, and I've got a lot of underlying systems that still need to be crafted before I feel comfortable setting that in place. So it'll probably be a while yet before I show it off, and especially since I may have little choice but to wait for a while to show it off, because we've already discussed that once Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave comes out on the 17th of September, that there will be a release stream the day of, but afterward, I'm going to be absolutely spamming live streams over at the Game Dungeon channel. And because of that, I decided to put out pre-recorded content over here during that time frame. It turns out that the pre-recorded content is going to start a little earlier than that, because a couple of conflicts have come up for both the 5th and the 12th, which are both Saturday. Well, actually, did I get the dates right? Let me check. Yep, 5th and 12th. So the first 2 Saturdays of September, I've got conflicts when I would normally stream. So the pre-recorded content is going to have to start sooner than I expected, which unfortunate in a sense, but since that I've got a couple of the pre-recorded videos already ready to go, it's not the biggest deal. So what I'm expecting then is that we'll have our final quote-unquote final one-off in this period where I'm not actively playing through a particular game, which will be next week. Then we'll spend the month of September oscillating, mostly focused on some pre-recorded stuff to wrap up our time with Xenoblade Chronicles 3. At that point, there's also going to be something interspersed in between where there will be a special React Night focused on Fire Emblem related topics. I've got a couple videos in mind that have not been recommended that I think would be worth investigating in that sense, and I'll be pre-recording that to make sure that that goes out at the usual stream time. So for the month of September on this channel, the only stream will be the Fortune's Weave release stream, and everything else will be pre-recorded. At the start of October is when we'll be coming back. At that point, we'll do a React stream, wrap up what we've got with respect to Xenoblade. There are a couple of things that Gilgamesh asked me to look at, one of our regulars asked me to look at after we were finished with Xenoblade, as well as maybe attend to a couple of the other viewer-requested things. And from there, I'm not entirely sure what to expect, because it'll depend on how much Fortune's Weave ends up occupying my time. I think it'll be good for me to, if I can, start streaming my game dev attempts on a more regular basis by that point, because it'll be, especially since that I'll have Fortune's Weave getting through that, competing for my attention with it. And that's part of the reason why game dev has been slow, relatively speaking, and why it took me a while to even get started, because, I mean, with all there is that I can do on YouTube, with all there is to explore here, there's always something that I could work on. So it's just a matter of realizing that, okay, no, dial it back. You don't have to do everything. You just have to focus on what matters the most to you. So a matter of figuring out what is the most important there. And since that the game is where I probably would like to end up being long term, as nice as the job I'm slated to get in a week or two would be, as nice as that job may end up being, I think it would be fun to be a game dev as a full-time occupation and doing YouTube on the side. But there's a lot I gotta get sorted before I can reach that. Mostly, I have to actually make it. So that needs to take a greater priority, so it'll be fascinating to see how those two priorities end up conflicting over the next month, especially once I'm back to the day job. Either way, that's enough rambling about that particular topic. All that to say, I don't know exactly how things will play out after September with respect to live streams. I will definitely be keeping to the Saturday time slot, I just don't know what exactly will be there. Whether it'll be one-offs still, whether I'll be starting up another game, whether I'll be continuing to spam Fortune's Weave, use it as an opportunity to show off my game and make sure I'm actually working on it. Finish the one line of code that is the game. Do I need to show you my game engine? Do I need to show you that I actually have working code? I really don't want. You know what? I don't want to do that right now. I've already shown you that I have made multiple commits to it. I don't need to go any further than that. Either way, that's enough rambling. That's enough rambling. So, thank you all for taking the time out of your day, whatever time of day it is, to watch this, especially with how long this went. I hope it was as entertaining for you as it was for me, and if you don't mind, I'm gonna go to bed and make sure I down enough water to where I won't wake up with a hangover, because I don't know what it is about tequila, but it hits different. $2.1. Okay, you're just gonna keep mocking me until I close the stream, aren't you, Lou? Alright, I get the message. Alright, I'm going to bed. Thank you all for stopping by. I will see you all next week for whatever I end up doing then. And until then, I will see you all later. Take care.